Welcome.
Oh, great Odin's Raven.
I like that one. Well, that's a nice welcome to our podcast for this evening. That's
Jonathan's corncob pipe.
We're not going to get Crank the Knob.
Oh, I have something that goes along with that Crank the Knob soundbite, but no.
Oy vey.
When I gotta tell you,
I missed some of it because I was at work. I was doing something and I didn't know why he posted it because I didn't listen to it. So
when Pat shared that in our group chat, I was like even I was like, did he just say I'm gonna crank your knob? I'm like,
yeah, man. Yeah, I got to admit, I had no memory of that happening, and I just accidentally found it on YouTube, more or less, and that it just was I went to the YouTube app on my phone and was looking to put something up, and that was just there, probably because of other stuff I clicked on, because that's the way the YouTube app seems to work anymore. And I was just like. What is this? And I clicked on it, and I you said it, and I just went because I was at work. So not the place you want to burst out laughing, even though my office isn't such a place where it's like you must remain quiet at all times. But if I just started randomly laughing in the middle of the day, and other people ask me, "What's so funny, Pat?" And if I had to try to explain that, it wouldn't have been such an easy task.
I'm watching a not so PC clip.
It's an old video of Hulk Hogan where he was talking about cranking knobs.
Knobs was a wrestler, and he was talking about him.
Knobs was one of Hogan's buddies, so
yeah.
Well, there you go.
He was cranking Knob's knob.
He might have. Who knows?
I think it would have been the other way around, personally, but it would have been Knobs cranking Hogan's knob.
Surprise, motherfucker!
He had gone to Nastyville.
Ew.
It all depends who you go to Nastyville with, but whatever.
Pat, was there an inside joke as to why you said Merry Christmas to me instead of Happy Birthday? Because I was lost on that one.
No, just being silly. I mean, it's kind of sort of like if you've ever saw the Disney Cinderella, when they unveiled when all the mice.
You're talking to the person who doesn't watch anything that's cartoon related.
Any content. It's like when all the mice unveiled the dress to Cinderella, the one mouse goes, "Happy birthday," and the other mouse is like, no. So it was just about getting the greeting wrong. So
yeah, little Gus.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, at least I knew I'd have at least somebody here who knows the Disney shit.
Man, I've watched
the one with kids, of course. So yeah,
I've watched. Dude, it doesn't even have to be kids. Talk about very, very many moons ago. One of my exes was a Disney fanatic, and she watched all those movies. That's not true. I just enjoy movies, and I've always enjoyed cartoons.
Compromising there, AJ.
It's also called you don't have to compromise on everything, though, too. So
no, I enjoy Disney movies, but so the fact that she was a Disney fanatic, we watched a lot of Disney movies together, and I have no problem watching cartoons because I enjoy cartoons. I've always been a cartoon guy. Speaking of cartoons, I've been watching a lot of anime lately. A lot of different anime series is on Netflix. Catch my eye, and I watch those.
Mm-hmm.
Some really good ones too.
I always several in my queue to watch. Still gotta get to.
So thinking about cartoons and anime, I'm trying to figure out why almost every anime I have ever watched draws women with extraordinary large breasts. I'm like, are these men like that? Are they super horny?
Hey,
are they?
Dude, listen, there's female animators in Japan now that draw them like that too. It's funny. That's always been their thing.
and it's funny. I've been watching this one. It's called The Seven Deadly Sins. The one guy is like a total pervert in that show. Like the main character, main character, he's always grabbing her boobs and sticking his head up her dress. And I'm like, you can tell this was not a series that was ever released on television in America. Like this was definitely Japanese or Chinese, and Netflix bought it because they knew people were going to watch it.
80% of anime is not for any kid under the age of like 15. Like legitimately, Dragon Ball Z, different story, some of the other stuff, but yeah, a majority of it, yeah, it's more for the adult liking per se.
Well, yeah, and even some of them has cursing. Like a couple of them I watched have like inappropriate language for that age group too. Not a lot, but enough of them.
Did you watch Castlevania yet?
Oh, dude, that show's freaking awesome. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
They
talk about gore, cursing, nudity, sex.
God, it's
you
got
get it all in that show.
You couldn't make that show live, though. You couldn't make it a live action show. It'd be too hard. Yeah. It'd be rated X if it was. Just for the blood and gore and stuff like that. Just all that.
That'd be like rated quadruple X with that if it was a live action. Just because.
Oh, man. So, what happened this week, guys? Anything good happened to anybody?
Well, I mean, I got older, so
yes. AJ is now he's hopped into the second half of his lifehood. If he reaches 90,
you still got a couple more years till he hits that, almighty 50.
Yes,
half a century mark there.
Yes, because AJ, if I'm gonna. You are 70. Yeah, 70. Put the wrong number first. You're 47.
46.
46. Okay.
46.
46. I did make you older by accident. 46. So that's why I said you jumped into the later half, because you're now officially over 45. So you're in the later half of your years.
Oh, man.
But if you live to 90, man, you're only halfway, just over halfway there.
You guys were. I told Joe you guys were cutting it close that night. I actually thought you guys forgot.
Well, I'm gonna be honest. I am probably one of the worst people with birthdays. Thank God that Facebook reminds you of people who have birthdays, and enough people sent you birthday messages on Facebook. They're like, "Oh, I'm like, oh shit, today is." I'm like, "Fuck, his birthday is in November."
Because at one point I told Nicole, I'm like, "Man, this is gonna be bad if Jeremy's brothers both send me something and then Jeremy doesn't."
You know what's funny about that, Jeremy? I turned all that notification shit off.
Oh, I can't. I'll forget people that are important.
I don't get birthday notifications anymore. I turned that shit off years ago.
Yeah, I would love to say that the only people I don't forget are my family. But I mean, I don't forget them, but I screw up my dad's and my wife's birthday because they're both in November. And I always want to make my dad's the 19th and my wife's the 28th. But it's my dad's is the 18th and my wife's is the 29th. But I screw up the numbers for some reason in my head. Ever since I got together with Jill, like a couple years in, I fuck up their days. Like I always want to make my wife the 28th. I don't know why I do that.
You need to tattoo that shit on your arm somewhere.
Speaking of tattoos, I do plan on getting another tattoo. I've already booked my appointment for 2 weeks before my birthday.
Sweet.
And he's finally going to get that big rocket man on his back.
That's right. That looks like a penis.
Rocket Man. Oh yeah, just get the song in my head now. Okay.
And instead of stuff coming out the bottom, there'll be stuff coming out the top.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're going to get the self-portrait of Darth Pat on your back.
Oh, yes. And instead of the big show, it'll be the big slow. Well, it's the big slow.
What are you going to get a tattoo of? What are you going with?
I'm actually getting a coat of arms on my other shoulder. So okay. I'm taking I've done some research on spellings of both on my father's side and my mother's side, the two different last names that, eventually, came together and made this family. And so I found those family crests, or what, representation of the family crest on both sides, and then I'm having the artist like kind of do something that mashes it all together into one big coat of arms. So
Okay.
because I like
Yeah, that would be. Go
I
ahead.
just like
Okay.
medieval shit. Like I like knights and I like that old like timey shit. So
That's cool. That's cool. That would be hard for me to do because Anderson is actually not like my real. How do I say this? It's not my lineage's real last name, pretty
Mhm.
much. So my dad is Lithuanian, mostly Polish, and some German.
Mhm.
So like his great grandparents' last name was something totally different.
Mhm.
So it's one of those things when they came over here, like the spelling was all kinds of weird and the way you pronounced it was kind of weird. So they just shortened it and named it Anderson. So so
Yeah.
it's one of those things. Like my dad has something, um one of his great uncles or whatever that has like the
Mhm.
proper spelling of the last name. So I could probably do something off that, but like I think my dad remembers it's kind of like it's pronounced Andrulius or something like that.
Mhm.
So and it's like spelled totally differently and all that jazz. And then I think my grandmother's kind of the same way. Like her name was a little different and they shortened it to Kuba or something like that, Kuba, some weird stuff. Yeah. just interesting. So, my mom's is easy because it's just my mom's Greek, so she's pure Greek. So that's an easy one for me to pull up. But it's something I've always thought about, like going back, kind of looking into as
Well,
well,
yeah.
and
I
doing
went on.
something with that.
I had to do it through Ancestry, like because I asked like relatives and stuff, and nobody knew the spelling of the one side of that family's name. Like my mom's one,
Okay.
on my mom's family, it's Bose, which is Boze, and then they have Clough. Well, the way they spell it is Cluphf. Well, that's not the actual original spelling. That's a different spelling. Now, why the hell would you change it from an easier spelling to a PHF at the end? I don't fucking know. But I finally found
Probably
the
to
original
differentiate
spelling.
themselves.
Yeah. But I found the original spelling from like census records and stuff that people had found and like highlighted and stuff like that. And I traced like articles and shit that were. So I found it at Cluff is the original spelling of it.
Well,
And
yeah, it is kind of
so,
weird. Cluff to the, but some what I did. One of my friends, when they were doing their ancestry stuff, told me that sometimes they just change the spelling just to differentiate themselves from other family groups that were not related but kind of had same last names or some jazz like that. I don't know.
well, yeah, and from what I was seeing, from what I was finding, it sounded like Clough was a pretty common last name. Back in that like the 1890s and stuff like that. That's kind of like
Okay.
that time frame when that name was, I don't want to say popular, but more common. And so yeah, then you started seeing Clough, Cluff, Cluphf. Like you kind of saw different ways of being spelled, but all pronounced the same. It was kind of interesting. That stuff that fascinates me. That kind of stuff.
It is interesting to research and kind of learn something more about your old family.
Yeah.
If you want to put it in those terms. The old family.
What about you, Darth Pat? Anything good happen this week for you? No? Okay. Alrighty. Well, I'm gonna bring this one up right away with football, and that is the wonderful guy from the the Las Vegas Raiders, not the LA Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders, who decided to drive drunk, crash his car at 100 and some miles an hour, hitting another car. What's that?
156.
Yes, 156, and killed a woman in her car. Evidently, she burned alive, from what I've read. And he's now sitting in jail, and the Las Vegas Raiders have automatically, as soon as they got news of that, dropped him from the team. Thoughts? Anybody's thoughts?
Well, this guy supposedly has a history of wanting to drive fast because his girlfriend took a video of them in his Corvette on some road where he was like hauling ass, and she started freaking out and asking him to slow down. But this guy's, I guess, been known to want to drive fast, live the fast life with the cars.
He made
Which
his
I
bed.
get.
He made his bed. Now he has to sleep in it.
Yeah.
Yep.
No,
It's another young guy that has it all in front of him. That one little mistake just cost him everything.
Yeah. And I mean,
and a life of somebody else. I mean,
well, yeah, and it was crazy when I'm like seeing this, and I was immediately just like, I was pissed. I'm like, what a piece of, what a piece of scum. And it was interesting because my daughter's like, well, he's the one that's got to live with it for the rest of his life. I'm like, that's if he can remember it. Like, he was double the legal limit in alcohol and drive. Like, he may not even know what the hell happened. Somebody might need to tell him. So
yeah, he knows.
That could be worse in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was reports came out last night from an eyewitness that because I guess when people arrived, he was on the side of the road with his girlfriend. His girlfriend was in the car too. And, they were watching the fire ablaze and people were taking videos of it. And they made it seem like he was like, didn't try to do anything. But there's I think one or two eyewitnesses that said after the crash happened, like when the car started catching on fire, he actually tried to go over there and tried to get her out. And then the fire just took the car. So,
yeah, and it's an unfortunate situation. I mean,
it's sad,
but it's just one of those things. Like, I don't feel pity for the guy that he's so young and this happened to him. And I'm sure there's people out there that do feel bad. Oh, he's so young and he threw his life away. I don't feel bad for him because he made that decision. Like, that was a conscious decision to drive that fast. Now, whether he could make that thought clearly because of his intoxication level is a whole nother story, but he was still able to make a decision. He was still able to drive the car at that speed. He, evidently not very well because of his intoxication level. But it was a decision nonetheless. It was a straight up decision to do that.
And the other thing too, it's kind of like I question the girlfriend. You let him get in this car and drive you? You let him get behind the car. You let him get behind the wheel of a car where he was double the legal limit, and you got in the car with him. So, and you allowed him to drive. I just don't fathom that. Yeah. I think she was intoxicated too, but just not as bad as he was. But I don't know.
Yeah, and
there's a lot of things you wrap your head around that shit.
And the crazy thing is there's so many options now for people. Everybody has the options to call Uber, call Lyft, phone a friend, have somebody call you a taxi, a cab, whatever, And why didn't the bar cut him off? If he was that drunk, unless he was at a friend's house or something like that and just drinking at a friend's house, why didn't the bar cut him off? I know they're not going to because he's a celebrity, he's a football player, but still, like, there's some liability on the VIP
lounge.
Yeah, there's some liability on the bar for not taking action to say you are too fucking drunk. I can't serve you anymore. Like, yeah. But I just was interesting to read and see all that shit.
It was really fun the other day. It was really fun the other day when somebody else actually said that Aaron Rodgers is a piece of shit. I like seeing Pat post that.
Let's talk about Aaron Rodgers.
Thank you, Pat, for making me look like I was smart. I've been saying that for years.
Yes, we do have to talk about Aaron Rodgers because I was listening to this on WIP and I'm like, and they don't talk about you're talking about a local Philly station. They're not going to talk about Aaron Rodgers or anybody else outside unless it's something like big, like it's significant. And to hear him at a press conference be asked about, are you vaccinated? And he pretty much just said no. He skated or it sounds like he's trying
to the whole fucking thing.
Tiptoed around it, but he did say no. Or no, he did say yes. Like he said, I think he lied about being vaccinated. That's right. He lied. He said yes. And then to find out that he wasn't, and he's not following mask protocols.
And he's saying he didn't lie, but you did.
Yeah. He's not following mask protocols.
And then his girlfriend was, I guess, sending some cryptic tweet about it because she's vaccinated because she does movies. I think she's an actress or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's filming. Yeah, I know her name, but I don't know a lot that she's in. Shows how much I pay attention to his girlfriend. So she's fully vaccinated. She's an actress, but she's like sending cryptic tweets. Like, don't defend him, please. You're gonna make yourself look bad too. He's just having one of the most oddest years for an NFL player, with the whole shit of not, holding out and not wanting to come, and some of the interviews I've seen, like what he did on the Pat McAfee show and some of the other interviews he's done on other sports shows. I listen to him and I just feel like he's just like, whatever. He's kind of like, I don't give a fuck. I'm just doing me. And it's just very odd.
Maybe he's like hanging around Kyrie when nobody can see what's going on. Maybe him and Kyrie are friends because he's like the Kyrie of the NFL now.
Yeah, you had before the season started, like Joe was pointing out, you had the holdout, and you had you need to get another receiver, and you got to get this one. You got to get Randall Cobb. I want Randall Cobb back, or if I'm not playing,
done shit this year.
He does that shit, and AJ knows this better than anybody. I respect guys that just play the game. Don't make a big fuss. Even when contracts come up, they don't make a fuss. They just, whatever their contract, you don't hear anything about contract negotiations. You don't hear about them holding out for the season. They just show up. They do their job. They play. They're very respectable. They play well with the media. They're good people. So when I hear shit like this about a franchise guy who's been there forever, and in my opinion, when he first started and up until recent years has been respectable. Now his commercials for State Farm and all that shit have fucking drove me nuts. But for the most part, I feel like he's been respectable and been a kind of stand-up person. But over the years, ever since Mike McCarthy got fired, I've seen a progression of Aaron Rodgers turn into more and more of a dick. Yeah. And it's the Aaron Rodgers show. It's not Green Bay. This is the Aaron Rodgers team. And I don't care about anything else as long as I get what I want. I want a better coach. I want better talent around me. I want this. I want that. It's like, why, as an organization, I get it. Aaron Rodgers, as a quarterback for a franchise, he's the kind of quarterback you want because he's a winner.
Yeah.
But does that mean that you have to put up with the bullshit?
He's a winner. He's a winner on some level. They've choked a lot in the playoffs, though. So
I agree. Absolutely.
So he's a winner because he won a Super Bowl, but he's also choked in the playoffs year after year. Like, my friend Zach is a Packers fan, and second week of the playoffs, he's usually like, all right, they're gonna lose this week or next week. He's like, here comes the choke job. So when a Packers fan is owning up to that, then it's clearly happening regularly.
Yeah.
So
he's considered a winner because every year they have a winning record, no matter what.
But
so
his playoff performances sometimes have been not less than stellar. So
yeah, it's just been interesting. Like those two stories have been like the highlight of this week as far as football.
Well, I mean, once again, I'm gonna say the same thing as I did last week. Yeah, my team won. Our teams all still suck. So there's not a whole lot to talk about when your teams suck.
Odell Beckham's getting out of Cleveland finally, I guess.
He's
I don't know what that.
Shit. That guy.
I don't know what that dude's issue is all of a sudden.
He is such a bum. That guy is such a bum. So I would not want him on my team.
Cleveland was kind of probably like this.
It's actually, I'm not even mad. That's amazing.
I mean, Cleveland right now, the Clowns at the beginning of the year, people were talking about them going to the Super Bowl. Now they're 4-4. Mm-hmm. So, and they looked awful. They really looked bad against Denver 2 weeks ago, and they looked terrible against Pittsburgh last week. So,
yeah, they're slowly declining.
I think what Browns fans need to realize, I'm not sure where it
Stop
really
acting
was.
like Philadelphia fans. Sorry,
No,
Jeremy.
no. They need to stop having.
Ha ha, very funny, motherfucker.
They need to stop having positive expectations at the outset of the season. I feel like the last couple of times where they've had like this like outlook at the beginning of the year, like, oh, we're gonna have a good season, blah blah blah. They fall flat on their face. The precious few times they've had decent seasons recently, I think were like years where they didn't have expectations at the beginning of the year. So clearly the answer is just think you're gonna suck when September 8th rolls around, and then maybe you'll get to the playoff.
For so many years, it was easy for them to think that because that's what was going to happen.
Right. Well, again, it's like that. It's like that line that Vince Vaughn said in Dodgeball, where he's all like, I find that if you have a goal, you may disappoint yourself, but if you never set an output, then you'll never be disappointed. And I got to tell you, it feels amazing, or whatever that line is.
And we on the podcast a week ago, I said something about Von Miller getting traded, and 2 days later it happened. So,
How do you feel?
To LA.
I'm okay because I don't have a problem with the Rams because Cam Akers is there and Jalen Ramsey's there. So there's Florida State guys there. So I'm just glad he went to a team that I can root for. I don't really like. Speaking of, this is a segue to something I was going to ask you guys anyways. I don't like Matt Stafford. I'm not a fan, and me and Jay were just talking about this last night, or me and Mickey, one of us. I don't think he's the Hall of Famer. I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. So, and people are like talking about him like he's a Hall of Famer, and I don't think he is.
He
could have been.
Two things I will say.
He got drafted by Detroit.
But so did Barry Sanders.
One.
There's a difference there.
I think in order for him to be a Hall of Famer or be like a more certain Hall of Famer, he's got to actually win a Super Bowl or at least a playoff game or two. But two, and this is kind of will be a bigger bellwether, I think. Let's see what happens when Phillip Rivers hits the ballot, because Phillip Rivers has the numbers, but he doesn't have really any postseason success. What's the furthest he ever got? The conference title game?
Yeah, he never made a Super Bowl. Yeah,
I think that was only once. So it's like, I think for the most part, quarterbacks to get in the Hall of Fame now, they got to have won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And
here's
but
the
we'll
thing,
see, especially as like Eli gets the ballot, since he's got 2 Super Bowls, but he's got a lot of other but things on his resume. So
So here's something with that. If Megatron can get in, Stafford could probably get in.
I feel too, though that's a different position and a different standard in a lot of ways. Like, I really do feel like for quarterbacks to get in the Hall of Fame, they either have to have been like very much overwhelming with the numbers for the era in which they played in, which I think the most recent example of something like that, somebody like that getting to the Hall of Fame, I think was probably Warren Moon, who's somebody who didn't have like a Super Bowl win or anything. But I feel like all the guys who've gotten in recently are guys who like won Super Bowls. So
Dan Marino.
It's hard with Detroit players because when Barry Sanders played, when he first got drafted, they tried to put a team around him, and then they just at some point just gave up, just didn't give a fuck. So you had Barry Sanders on a team that didn't care. He goes, Stafford comes along, Megatron comes along. You have a quarterback, wide receiver, but you can't put a fucking defense together or anything else for that matter. And they've pretty much shit the bed with that team ever since.
Yeah, they draft terribly,
as much as I don't care about that team because they're a rival in my team's division, it kind of sucks for the player themselves to have to deal with that shit.
Yeah,
and
you almost
seriously,
hope for a trade. If you're on Detroit, you're like almost hoping for a trade to be on a team where you can shine.
And it sucks because I think Stafford might have like sometimes second thoughts about not asking for a trade or not re-signing that contract, going elsewhere, because he probably could have had a different career at this point.
I also find it a little ironic because we know we've just mentioned both of these teams. I believe it's just 4 teams that have not made the Super Bowl ever. 2 of them are expansion teams, the Jaguars, who have been in existence for 25
and then
years.
the Lions and the Clowns.
And the Texans, who have been in existence for about 20 years now. But then, yeah, the Lions and the Browns, who are both pre-Super Bowl era teams, who did win NFL championships. Let's grant that, and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But those were like so long ago as to be forgotten, everything. But yeah,
before my lifetime, so I don't give a shit.
Well, right, but it's just also again, it's
no history with you, buddy.
it's what 54, 55 years now of the Super Bowl, and they haven't even been able to get there once. Where teams that have you have all these teams that have come into the league after them who have. So that's what really makes it, and the Joker, black mark on your franchise.
The Joker in my pocket is that the 3 times Cleveland got close, Denver prevented that all 3 times. So,
yeah, and I look at Matt's fumble. I look at Matt Stafford, and he has good numbers. Like his numbers overall, even being playing for Detroit, he has good numbers. And this year, his numbers are even, I think, probably better than what they've been in years.
Right, they are,
because he actually has a team. That's the thing,
and
he actually has a legit offense.
Right, and we're going to see him in the playoffs. Like, unless something tragic happens to the Rams, we're going to see him in the playoffs, and this will be his first playoff opportunity. So now's the chance to see. Okay, we know Matt Stafford can play. We know he has the ability to play and be a good quarterback. Now let's see in the playoffs, because this gives him the opportunity to shine when he needs to, and needs to help his team get to, a division championship or the Super Bowl possibly. It's not out of the realm of possibilities that they could be playing for the division championship or even for a Super Bowl. We'll see. It's going to depend on, does Arizona keep the steam that still have the fire that they've had, after losing to Green Bay? Is Tom Brady, the ancient quarterback, able to keep his health up and not get injured? Because that's always looming. If he gets hit, he's very good at not getting hit. Like, you got to give it to him. Like, he doesn't take a lot of sacks.
Do you want to know what's funny real quick on that about old man Brady? So one of the new video games.
I love
coming
that we call him old man Brady now.
He is. He's in his 40s like us. So one of the new video games coming out in a couple weeks this month is Battlefield 2042, and they have a trailer. And in the trailer, there's like a building, and it has a billboard, and it says 2042, and it's Tom Brady with all like this big white beard and white hair. And it says like MVP or some shit on there, and I was like, wow,
that's awesome.
It was just kind of funny. I was like, I saw the trailer, and I was like, wait a minute, is that what I thought it said? I was like, I replayed it, and yep, there it is. There's Tom Brady on there. So play football in 2042. This is kind of funny they did that.
He probably had illegal bionic legs installed while nobody was looking.
Or bionic arm.
Like,
or
at this point, I think the most games one of the teams we like is going to win is Denver could get to 7. I don't think any of the teams we like are winning more than 7 games. Would you guys agree with that at this point?
The Giants have a much softer schedule after they play Tampa Bay on Monday night in a couple of weeks, but still, to get to 7 wins, the Eagles. If they win tomorrow, maybe. But
yeah, the Eagles are in the easier half of their season, also. But I mean, it's they still have Washington. I think they have Washington twice. They have the Giants twice.
Right. And then Dallas
once, which that's going to probably be another loss. And I can't think of who else they have. And they have Denver.
That's one of the games I'm penciling in for Denver could win is against the Eagles.
So, and I'll be honest, I was really, really surprised as I'm watching the Eagles play the Detroit Lions that how well the Eagles played. Now, granted, it is the Lions, so you got to take that into account. But I have never seen the Eagles to this entire season. So we're talking 7 games in now. I've never seen them put together a game plan that worked so well. It's like it took their starting running back to get injured. It took them trading Zach Ertz away. It took them losing one of their top receivers to be like, maybe we should try running the ball and controlling the clock and not have to have Jalen Hurts throw 50 to 60 times a game. Maybe that'll work. Maybe we can do something with that. And they did. but kind of pissed me off because I have Dallas Goedert on my fantasy team, and every time they normally get close, they throw the little out route to the tight end, and they didn't throw that fucking shit. They ran it in every goddamn time. So a little upset about that because I got no fantasy points, but it was interesting to see how they controlled every aspect of that game was controlled by the Eagles, and I haven't seen that in fucking years, let alone this season.
And it's go ahead, Joe. Sorry.
So the Bears play. I'll tell you 2 games the Bears will probably win. Thanksgiving against Detroit. January 2nd against Pat's team, the Giants, possibly. And they haven't played the Vikings yet, so I have no idea how they're going to fare against the Vikings. And we have Pittsburgh Monday in Pittsburgh. Then we play the Ravens. We have to play the Cardinals, Packers, Seahawks, and the Vikings twice. And I have no idea.
I mean, the Vikings go down and score on their first possession. They score a touchdown, and then they don't score a touchdown the rest of the game. That's what the Vikings do. So,
yeah,
this is such a toss-up.
Like I said, it all depends on the Kirk Cousins that shows up that day, and it sounds like Kirk Cousins hasn't been showing up at all. Like the good Kirk
He shows
Cousins.
up on the first possession. He stormed down the field against Dallas last week. First possession made it look easy, and then didn't score a touchdown the rest of the game.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So, on the flip side, though, all 4 of us, it's early, but all 4 of our basketball teams are all doing well.
Yeah, how about that shit? Ben Simmons, and the Sixers actually have a winning record.
Yeah, you guys beat us. You guys beat us again tonight.
Oh, we beat you again. Nice.
I saw Embiid almost punched Lonzo Ball in the face.
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, let's be honest. Let's be honest.
I would have been okay if Embiid would have punched Lonzo in the face. So,
of course you would.
Let's be honest.
Lonzo's a bum.
By proxy,
that's nice, but I need him to play for my team right now.
By proxy, if you're punching Lonzo Ball in the face, you're really punching his father in the face. So I think in that. I think in that
you can punch his father in the face. I don't give a fuck about him.
I think in that aspect, we all want to punch Lonzo Ball in the face.
My thing for Lonzo,
he can't help who his dad is.
Yeah. See, that's Lonzo Ball. I don't. Yeah,
Bob. Before I come out of your belly, make sure your husband's different, please. I need a different dad.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm indifferent towards Lonzo because he himself does not cause any problems. Like he plays basketball and that's all he does.
Never has.
And the nice thing is his dad is not a media whore. I shouldn't say isn't a media whore, but you don't hear him in the media anymore. Like I don't hear his dad fucking constantly talking like, oh, my son needs to be traded. Oh, he should have more playing minutes. Oh, this and that shit. We don't hear about the big baller brand. I don't hear that shit all the time anymore. And his big baller brand shoes and all that. Like I don't hear all that shit anymore. And I'm so thankful because for me, that's what made me dislike Lonzo Ball in the beginning. And now I'm just okay, he's just another player in the NBA anymore. Like he doesn't mean shit to me.
It's not just his dad for me. So
he played at UCLA.
No, it's not just that. It's that when he played at UCLA in the tournament, De'Aaron Fox outplayed him and made him his bitch. And De'Aaron Fox is a better NBA player than he is. And they still they took Lonzo before him. And I said it was dumb then. And now it was dumb because Fox is a better player than Lonzo was. He was a better player in college. He's still a better player. And so when Lonzo got drafted before him, you guys are stupid. And that was stupid because Fox is a better player than him. So
and who drafted Lonzo?
You
in the
wanted
first round?
Fox to go to the Lakers?
I'm just saying that it didn't matter. Fox could have went. It's not like Fox went right after Lonzo. So Fox could have went other places. So I'm just saying that I think that was a dumb pick, and I don't think Lonzo's a good player. I don't think he's his brother is definitely better than he is for sure. Without
and that's LaMelo, right? That's the one that's his
he's
brother.
Already better than his brother.
It's for Charlotte.
Yeah.
So, I'd like to punch Lonzo in the face every time I see him. He's another guy that I'd like to punch in the face. I don't care what team he plays for. So
That's fine. But my team has him, and I have to worry about him playing well.
Boy,
Otherwise,
that escalated quickly.
I'm just saying, I have to deal with it. You guys don't.
Yeah, no, and for you, Joe, I really
I don't
hope
have
that
an
his
issue with
father
ball.
does not
I-
become a big problem.
Yeah,
with the
that was my biggest
Chicago.
issue because he's been at all the home games. So
Yeah.
that was my biggest issue. Like if I don't want to, he starts causing an issue, the Chicago fans will like rip him apart. They'll get on his ass about it.
Because Lonzo got traded. Who did he get traded to? Like, what was it, 2 years ago? The Pelicans. Was that 2
Pelicans,
years
yeah.
ago?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and now he's with Chicago. So he's going to be one of those players that's going to be like a journeyman. He's going to be like on 17 different teams by the end of his career.
It could be, yeah.
possibly.
And I don't know if that's because, and I say this that I don't know because is it his dad that's representing him and trying to get these better contracts, and the teams are like, no, or is it?
I don't think his dad is his manager. I think he has a legit agent, sports agent. I don't think his dad is his sports agent at all.
Because I feel like his dad
any of the
originally was like for the
I
Lakers
think he
deal,
was, yeah.
And possibly the Pelicans deal. Like I feel like his dad might have been. Maybe he got rid of him. I don't know. Anybody? Pat, you want to look that up?
I'd have to check.
No, okay, good. There goes our credibility right out the window.
And I think the Sixers and the Heat have the best record in the East, and because Miami just beat the Jazz tonight, the Warriors actually have the best record in the NBA right now.
Yeah.
So
it's just it's interesting. So we'll see what happens with Lonzo's career. LaMelo, he's in a market you don't even hear anybody think about the damn team.
yeah, Charlotte's fun to watch. They're a fun team to watch. They're like one of those teams that's on the rise, and they've made the right picks. So they're like
Finally.
They're like
for that team.
They're like one player away because they're all young there. They don't really have. I guess Gordon Hayward's the veteran there. So
Yeah, pretty much.
They've drafted well. They're fun to watch. I don't know how many games they're going to win this year, but they're definitely one of those upper echelon fun to watch teams. So
yeah. Jeremy, earlier when I kind of made fun of Philadelphia fans, Cleveland fans not being like Philly fans, my one coworker, he's from Pennsylvania as well, so he likes all the Philly sports teams. Sorry. So I went in there to work this week when you guys beat us the first game, and I was joking around because I had to watch the whole Embiid and DeRozan block craziness and all that jazz. Was it a foul? Wasn't it a foul? So I went in there and I'm joking around. Oh, you guys got the refs, refs home field, home ref advantage there with that BS call. And I came in there joking because I was laughing about it. He got super defensive, like super quick. He's like, "Fuck that shit," blah blah blah. And I was like, "All right, okay." And I was like, "Dude, I'm only joking. It was a good game to watch, man." And he was like, "Oh," he was like, he kept going, and I'm like, "Now I know what type of Philly fan you are."
Yeah.
So I'm like, "Yep." I always do something to gauge how crazy fans are for their teams. So I kind of went in there just joking around, and then he just kind of went, and I was like, okay, that'll be the last time I say anything new about any of our teams ever play, because I don't want to hear your ridiculous things. I can see how you already are. Thanks for sharing that with me. So I was just like, Jesus Christ, man. It's like, I'm only kidding. It was a good game. What the fuck?
Yeah, I'm super impressed by the Sixers right now. Now, who knows what
and they're better off with Ben Simmons. They need to fucking just peace out that kid.
Yeah,
just let him go.
And I don't know what the rest of their season's going to look like, but you have some shining stars. Okay, you have Thibault, who is playing very well. You have Maxey, who's playing very well. And if I remember correctly, both those guys are like Maxey, I think, is a second-year guy.
Yeah, Maxey's a Kentucky kid. So,
and I think Thibault is a third-year guy.
Probably. I don't think I think he's. And I mean, you have Embiid, but he has to stay healthy.
Right. He's the big. You don't know what's going to happen with him.
Your bench guys is what helped you tonight, because it was a tie game and two of the guys off the bench hit like crucial threes for you to help you steal the win.
Yeah, so Thibault was drafted in 2019. So this is his technically, I guess, third season.
Yeah.
So, you got two young guys in Maxi and Thibault who are coming around. Tobias Harris has a good role. He has his role that he plays. Andre Drummond, there's a guy like I know the name, but I don't know where he played before. I don't know how long he's been in the league, but he seems to be a good fill-in in the way that they're using him for to fill in for Embiid. Like he seems to be a good fill-in to give Embiid that rest that he needs.
Yeah.
And I think Embiid even didn't play a game because his knee was bothering him. So Drummond was like the main big guy for that time. So, they're doing a lot of good things with what they have. I think it's a lot easier for Doc to coach this team without the added drama of Ben Simmons and trying to cater to a guy who at his size and his ability is a subpar player. If you look at all around his all around ability to play, he's subpar in my opinion. Doesn't mean that he can't be better. I don't think he cares to get better. I don't think he wants to get better. And I've said that for quite a while now. I wish he would have.
He just got something going on where I just don't know where his head's at.
Yeah. And then they got this guy too. They got Georges Nagy or Nang. I'm not sure how to say his name.
Yang. He's from Louisville.
Yang. He's a couple years in, but he's doing very well for them. And you got Seth Curry.
Milton's okay too.
Well, who's that?
Shake Milton.
Shake Milton, yep. He's doing very well. Like all these guys that they have coming off the bench that are filling in, that, have these roles are, just playing very well. And like you said, Joe, today their bench saved them. That was the reason why they won.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to have. You have to have good bench players that can come in, play the couple minutes that they need, and you don't lose momentum. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's why the Warriors are winning games because of their bench. It's not even just because of Steph and stuff, and they don't even have Clay yet. It's their bench. They're winning games because of their bench.
Yeah, your bench needs to be able to come in, when there's a lead, and be able to help you maintain that lead. You don't have to go up more, but you at least need to be able to maintain and not lose ground.
That's why Miami's scary, because Tyler Hero's coming off the bench right now, and that dude is it's like last season didn't even happen with Tyler Hero. So he's balling right now, and he's coming off the bench and dropping 20 every night.
Yeah, so it's very interesting this year because I'm going to go to the Eastern Conference. Here we go. So I'm going to the Eastern Conference, and there's the Hawks at 4-5. Ha 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 ha. I just got to laugh at them because I do not like the Hawks anymore. Like I used to be indifferent towards them. Now I despise them. Because I don't like after what I've seen from Trae Young and some of the way he was getting free throws, and I realized that he may be talented, but maybe he's not as talented as he looks from previous seasons. I don't know. We're going to find out more about him this year now that the rules have changed and how you can get fouls and stuff like that. Because now you actually have to be a pure shooter. You can't be the I get fouled while I'm shooting.
You can't be James Harden.
Yeah, you can't do the James Harden shit anymore.
Can't be jumping into people anymore either.
Because they said when they played the Sixers and the Sixers beat them, his free throws, his attempts at the line have gone way down this year.
Oh, so Harden's have actually gone down more than anybody.
Yeah, yeah. He can't hook nobody and drag them along for the ride and get a foul call. Oh yeah, he's a travel. He definitely travels.
It's a travel machine.
Steph did that from time to time, the jump, but he didn't do it a lot. It's not like affecting. He didn't go to the free throw line. An average game for Steph is like 6 or 7 free throws. He doesn't get a ton of. So he was doing that but he wasn't. His whole game wasn't based on that. So and I've seen him. I've seen it happen a couple times this year where he's jumped into the guy and they've not called anything, and the fucking shot he throws up still goes in. So
Yeah, that's
It's
crazy.
one of those
There's a
things.
clip of him. There's a clip of him from like a week ago where he's making a one-handed runner from the 3-point, from like 5 steps behind the 3-point line.
Yeah, I'm looking up because they lost to the Jazz 116-98, and right now they're losing 2. So I am just looking up. I'm looking up stats, current stats for this year.
Young's a bomber, but he doesn't have the. I don't know if he has the interior. Like Steph can get to the rim. Young can shoot the deep threes like Steph, but I don't think Trae Young doesn't have the whole package like Steph does. Like he's the closest I've seen to Steph, him and Lillard, as far as the bombing, but I don't think Trae Young can get to the hoop like Steph can. So
yeah. So I'm looking at his stats through 9 games. Now 9 games is a very, very small sample, but he's averaging right around the same amount of minutes. He's averaging 3 less points right now. His field goal percentage is down 3%. His 3-point percentage is down almost 10%. And everything else is the same as it was last year. So his field goal and 3-point percentage is hurting.
wow, but sometimes people start the season like Damian Lillard can't hit the broad side of the barn right now. So
But when you get fouled, and this is where I'm not sure on how it counts towards stats. But if you get fouled during a shot, that shot does not count as an attempt, right?
Right.
So those get X'd off. So those misses that happen during the supposed foul can increase your percentages that you have. Because a lot of times his were on 3-point shots, or a deep 2, what can be considered a deep 2. So, that could definitely have an effect. But once again, 9 games is a very small sample in an 82-game season. So
the Hawks overachieved last year. The Hawks had no business in the Eastern Conference Finals. They overachieved last year for sure.
Oh, well, yeah, no doubt about it. That series was blown because of, there was a lot of reasons the Sixers didn't win that series, but one of the main reasons was Ben Simmons being on that team and his ability to play in the playoffs.
I mean, the Knicks should have beat the Hawks in the first round. So
yeah, that would have been an interesting series. Well, no, the Knicks probably wouldn't have played the Sixers. Maybe.
No, they don't reseed in the NBA.
Oh, they don't reseed in the NBA.
No, they
That's
don't
right.
Reseed in the NBA. You play whoever is there.
So it would have been the Knicks and the Sixers. That'd have been an interesting series. But it is nice to see that the Knicks are. Let me go back here.
For the Knicks 6-3.
Yeah, I got to go back here. Give me 1 second.
I want to say
they're 6-3 and sitting in the 5th seed. Yep. And then you got the Bulls who are 6-2. 76ers and the Heat are 7-2.
Well, they're 8-2 now.
Sixers are 8-2 and the Bulls are 6-3.
The Heat are both 8-2 because they both just won tonight.
Yeah, this wasn't updated recently. Bad NBA. Keep your stuff up to date, please.
Yeah, if you're fouled while shooting, if you miss it, it doesn't count. But if you make it, it counts towards your stats. Yeah,
so you can see that. I mean, we know it doesn't happen a lot, but you can see how that can skew your percentages. If it happens a couple times a game, and you make them, well, there you go. It's an extra. If you miss it, doesn't matter. If that happens a couple times every game, that can really skew your stats. So
I like that Harden's struggling. I enjoy watching him struggle.
Oh, me too. I enjoy that too, and not because I want to see him fail, but I want to. For me, I want to see these guys and what they're really truly able to do without essentially taking advantage of the rules. Let me see what your true talent is, because you're an NBA player for a reason. You evidently got there because you have talent, but now let me really see your talent. Let me see what you can really do.
So when we had to pick our teams last week, 2 of my friends watched it, and they both said that you should have taken Hersey Hawkins instead of Seth Curry.
Are you fucking shitting me? Come on.
Taking Hersey Hawkins too, Jeremy. I forgot about him. So
I know about Hershey Hawkins. Trust me, I saw that. I watched that dude play.
I would have taken Hersey Hawkins. I forgot about him, so I would have taken him in that slot for sure.
I get it. I do. But I don't know. I watched him play, and I remember, he was a good player, but I just I don't
Well, and he played in Philly for a while too. Like Seth
Yeah.
hasn't really been there that long. I think it's more he had more longevity in Philly too. So
He did. And I think Seth's going to be around for a while. I don't know what his contract looks like right now, but
he's kind of a journeyman too, though. Seth has kind of been a journeyman too. I think he's been on 4 or 5 teams already.
yeah. So let me see if it says anything about his contract here with Philadelphia.
I forgot about Hersey Hawkins, Jeremy. So I completely forgot about him. So, but
Oh my God. Pat went in one door and came back in through the other.
What the hell is going on there, Pat?
What dark magic was that you just put on us?
It's bigger on the inside.
I see.
Okay.
That's
Can I throw it? That's what she said in on that one. Does that work for that too?
That's a TARDIS reference. So if you don't watch Doctor Who,
are you drinking lemonade?
yes,
Nice. What kind?
Minute Maid.
I don't really like the lemonade.
Minute Maid.
Yeah, I don't.
Zero sugar.
sugar.
Looks like this is his last year on his contract with the Sixers. So yeah, it looks like this is his last year.
If he plays well, he can be signed.
Yeah,
they'll have enough money once they get rid of Ben Simmons.
Yeah, so it looks like it's currently his last year on his contract, from what I could find, so it'll be interesting to see if they re-sign him. I think he's worth re-signing, for what he brings to the team. You know, he brings that deep ball threat, that consistent deep ball threat that they have it from other guys, but he's the starter on that team. Like, he starts. Like, you need that deep ball threat. So we'll see.
Ball in.
What?
He said ballin'.
Ball in.
That was such a.
Stop making fun of AJ Nitro.
No, I thought MVP used to do that.
But I stole it from him. So that was AJ
Oh.
Nitro.
What?
Oh God.
Oh man. So we talked NFL, we talked NBA.
Pat, what did you think of the playoff standings for college
football, dude?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Yeah. Well, my initial thought was,
playoffs. Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me? Playoffs?
This isn't really that, but
I'm sorry. I found it more entertaining when I just randomly did that as opposed to when you play the actual sound bite. But that's because I think I am right. Now, anyway, my initial thoughts about the playoff standings was, wow, they host Cincinnati.
Yes.
And then Cincinnati goes out and struggles with Tulsa today. So,
yeah,
I mean, I'm just saying, we get
Nebraska.
Yes, and Michigan State got bombed by Purdue. So,
and Alabama struggled for LSU today too.
Yes.
They won, but yeah, it was like 20-14. So yeah,
it was a struggle.
I mean, so if you're Cincinnati, all I'm saying is, and you think you got hosed, which I'm sure they probably thought.
You should have went out and played better today.
Yeah, the way to overcome that is to not go out and struggle with Tulsa, where you need like a 4th down stop on the goal line to preserve the win and everything. So it's like they may move up next week just by virtue of Michigan State losing, but they could also move, Michigan or Oklahoma ahead of them too. So
the only importance Cincinnati holds right now is as long as they go undefeated, Notre Dame can't get into the playoff. So
Notre Dame's not getting into the playoff anyway. I mean,
well,
even if Notre Dame wins their remaining games, which is certainly possible, I don't see any way of them cracking the top 4. You'd have to have so many teams ahead of them lose.
So now we have to, as Buckeye haters, we have to root for Michigan to beat the Buckeyes. Otherwise, they're getting in the playoffs.
So, yeah.
The Cuckeyes.
I don't give Michigan State much chance of beating Ohio State, and I don't give, even though Purdue's beating Iowa and Michigan State now, I don't give them much of a chance of beating Ohio State next week, especially because that's next week. It's like I think they probably there's a good chance they play themselves out today. So stranger things have happened, but yeah, I wouldn't count on it.
I think Michigan.
I know the way the universe works, and it always works out for Ohio State. That's basically what it
does.
Too bad they don't play Illinois this year. Illinois likes to beat, top 25 teams.
If you want to count Minnesota as a top 25 team.
No, he was probably more counting Penn State there, but.
Well, yes, I'm very well aware of that.
I wasn't making fun of Eddie. I wasn't making fun of Penn State. I'm just saying, hey, they half-assed it against teams that aren't ranked, but they've been playing really well against teams that are ranked, which is crazy.
And they have beaten two teams that were ranked in the top 25 when they beat them. So yeah, I mean, I'll give them that. But I'm just saying, I wasn't a big believer in Minnesota being. I didn't understand why Minnesota was ranked, to be honest. So
yeah, that's very true.
I'm not a big catalyst for the style points thing. I don't like that they're like, oh, go out and hammer this team. So like, you got to go out and beat this team by 50 to impress us. I don't really like the whole style points thing. So
nah, it's a joke when they start doing that.
Yeah, it's like I remember like margin of victory when it used to count as part of like the old formula for like the BCS and everything. And that's not like margin of victory really only matters when you're playing like the good teams, the competitive teams. I don't give a shit if you beat a MAC team by 70 points. It's like if you go and you beat a team that's ranked number 5 by 70 points, that's going to get my attention. Yeah, but it's like, well, also what were the circumstances of that game? Where like was that team missing key players? That kind of shit. So
because I remember like before they went to the playoff system, I remember one year I think Oklahoma and Texas had the same record. And they took Oklahoma, and it was because they had blown out people by more. And it was like Texas's coach was a classy guy, Mac Brown, and he called off the dogs in the fourth quarter of games. And dipshit Bob Poops ran up the score.
Bob Poops.
And they took that, even though
Bob Poops.
Even though Texas had beaten Oklahoma head-to-head that year, they still took Oklahoma over Texas. I think that's when dipshit Sam Bradford was there. So. But I remember where I was like, wow, you have this Mac Brown, this classy coach, and he's calling off the dogs to not be an asshole. And then you have this other coach who is an asshole, and he gets rewarded for being an asshole.
Yeah, well, that killed Penn State a couple times, too, because Paterno wasn't that kind of coach either. He wasn't about to run up the score just for the sake of running up the score. Like, he would play his players, and, you're up by 30. Okay, I'm up by 30. I don't need to be playing my starters anymore. I want to keep them healthy.
If you're up by 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter at that point, I think you can call off the dogs. Like, I don't think it should matter past there. Whether you win by 21 or 28, who cares? So,
yeah, I remember Penn State. It was in 1994, the year where they and Nebraska both went undefeated, and Nebraska won the national title. And of course, this was pre-BCS and everything. But
right, that was the year when he waxed Ohio State that year.
Yeah, but they struggled with Illinois that year.
Yes, they were losing to Illinois early in that game, and they came back and won that game.
Yeah, but they only beat them I think it was 35-31 or something like that. And they kind of slipped in the polls after that, and they weren't ever able to regain the ground and everything. So
I remember
it was so Nebraska went and played whoever the hell they played in the Orange Bowl, and Penn State played Oregon before Oregon was, the hot shit and everything in the Rose Bowl. And it was it didn't matter. It was everybody in Nebraska was winning. So
I remember that year because at the college football award show, they were giving out one of the Player of the Year awards. And I remember even before they announced his name, Kajana Carter stood up because he thought he won it. And then Kerry Collins won it instead. It was hilarious.
I do remember that.
I remember that same award ceremony. Warren Sapp won some award, and that's right, because it was Miami who was playing Nebraska in the Orange Bowl, and I think Craig James was interviewing him on the stage, and he said something like, "Don't you think it's a shame that the winner of your game can't play the winner of that Rose Bowl game?" And Warren Sapp said the best thing he ever said in his life: "I think it's a shame Nebraska and Penn State can't play now." It's like, thank you. But, we were still a few years away from getting that at that point. So,
yeah,
somebody had the common sense to fucking say it.
I think I remember back then thinking that Penn State would have beat Nebraska. I never really
that year, I
bought
think so. Yeah.
I never really bought into the Nebraska crap. Tommy Frazier was a really good quarterback, but I never liked Tom Osborne. So I think I remember thinking Penn State would have beat them just because Penn State embarrassed the Buckeyes that year. They beat them like 62-14. They like took them behind the shed.
Yeah. It was like, Nebraska won the titles back to back in 94 and 95. And I always remember feeling that the 95 team was the much stronger team. So like, I didn't know if 94 Penn State would have beaten 95 Nebraska, but I felt pretty confident that with the offense Penn State had in 94.
And then in 97, they fucking split the national title with Michigan because one guy kicked the ball to another guy in the end zone for Nebraska. So, and I think Michigan would have beat Nebraska. I actually think Florida State was the best team that year. Florida State had 1 5-minute meltdown against Florida, or they would have won the national title that year. They were the best team in college football that year. They had one. That's where you find out if you have one hiccup, you can get it all taken away. That was the year with Florida State where they were so good all year.
Was that when was the BCS going on in that time, or was that still pre-BCS?
That was still even pre-BCS. So,
see, and
I think the BCS started in 98.
Because me and Joe loved the BCS. So. It was the Bowden Championship Series because Florida State played for the national title 3 times in the first 4 years of that.
Well, yeah, Bobby Bowden was I don't like to say this, but he was a hell of a coach. He really was.
Well, he turned that program completely around, and then he left, and then somebody else left, and now the program is a hot mess.
Yeah, because didn't Bobby Bowden, wasn't he like him and Paterno were like really close for like most wins as a head coach, college coach,
and they took wins away from Bowden, so.
Well, then they took all of Paterno's wins away for a period. And of course, one of the people who I think was most outspoken about restoring Paterno's wins was Bobby Bowden, if I recall. Yeah. So
I don't think there were a lot. I mean, all these schools in the ACC, when Florida State plays them, they all have some kind of tribute to Bowden. So I think there was all kinds of respect there. I don't think there was a lot of people that didn't really say, I don't really like Bobby Bowden. I think he's an asshole. I don't really think that was something you heard about him, really.
My mother never liked Bobby Bowden just because not liking Florida State. Then she watched We Are Marshall.
And he loaned all the plays to West Virginia and stuff.
Yeah. And then she was like, wow, I never knew that. And so she started liking Bobby Bowden.
I have to watch that movie. I still have to this day not seen that movie. We Are Marshall.
I've never seen all of it. Yeah.
I saw that movie in the theater with Joe.
And I like Matthew McConaughey too. And he's in that movie. He plays the coach, doesn't he? Matthew McConaughey plays the coach.
Yep.
That's a good flick.
Yeah, so I gotta eventually I'll see that. It's on my bucket list of movies that I haven't seen that I need to see. There's a lot of those out there because I haven't seen Batman v Superman. I haven't seen the 4-hour extravaganza of.
If you skip Batman versus Superman, you might be okay to skip that one.
I've heard not good things about that.
If you're gonna watch it, watch the Ultimate Edition.
Okay.
The uncut version.
Yeah.
Because it makes sense. Because if you watch the movie version, you could tell where there's parts that don't make sense. And when you watch the Ultimate Edition, they have all the parts in there that makes
it help tie that story correctly.
Yeah, it ties in the different parts of the movie. It's like, oh, why couldn't you just show this in the first one? But wait, Warner Brothers was being dicks. That's why.
Yeah, and I still haven't watched the 4-hour extravaganza of Zack Ryder's Justice League.
Snyder?
I said Zack Snyder. Or no, Jack Snyder? Zack Ryder? Oh, did I? Sweet!
Woo, woo, woo!
You know it.
What? That was sweet. Jeremy inadvertently said that. And we got to have fun with it. So,
yeah. It's Zack Snyder, right? Zack Snyder.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I still have not sat down to watch the Snyder cut because
it's a lot better.
I don't know. When I read the description, I'm like, well, it just sounds like a longer version of what we saw in theaters. Yeah, I don't know, but
it doesn't seem like it's 4 hours when you watch it.
I'm also one of these people who, while I like Man of Steel, and didn't think Batman v Superman was as bad as everybody thought it was. I'm also not one of these people who thinks Zack Snyder's some kind of like fucking visionary filmmaker. You know,
I mean, I
It's
did like the Snyder cut of Justice League better than the original for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'll watch it at
It
some
was
point.
way better.
But again, I'm just not like saying, "Oh, I must see Zack Snyder's ultimate vision of what this movie was going to be." You know,
I didn't like Batman versus Superman, but it wasn't the Fantastic Four, or it wasn't X-Men Apocalypse. It wasn't as bad as some of those movies. So,
Oh my god! Ugh. Like I've seen all those.
If you're gonna cite an X-Men movie for turgidness, you got to go with Dark Phoenix. It's just so bad.
You know, it's the comic book superhero movies have come a long way.
Yeah.
And Marvel's done a hell of a job of really making them good stories like the Marvel universe. But you know, DC's trying to do, you know, the people that are making the DC movies, they're trying. They've got some steps, they got some leaps and bounds to make some really good movies. They shouldn't have to release like ultimate cuts and
their problem is they have a studio that holds them back.
Right. They've
Warner Brothers is stepping in way too many times and fucking these movies up.
Right.
So,
Warner Brothers can never make up their mind as to what they want. They think that one thing works in one context, so that's the way everything's going to be. They're like the Nolan Dark Knight trilogy is so wildly successful. So then they're like, okay, everything's got to be dark and no jokes allowed. And it's like, that doesn't really work outside
for every
of
superhero.
Batman. You know, it's like
Batman's that kind of character. Right.
Superman and Wonder Woman and the Flash and Green Lantern are not. But they didn't seem to fucking understand that. And it basically, that's why all these attempts for this like shared universe and thing, I think first of all, they were copying off Marvel, obviously. Second of all, they did it wrong. They tried to do the group movie first. And I'm sorry, I've said this a million times. This applies really more to the Snyder cut and a little bit to the theatrical version of Justice League. You don't start with fucking Darkseid because there's nowhere to go from there. Darkseid is the ultimate villain in DC. He's the one you have to face. He's the end boss. You needed to do something that was a little more earthbound that would give them a reason to come together as a unit before you go with the intergalactic threat of, the all-powerful Darkseid. I mean, I'll say it till the day I fucking die.
And they teased a little bit of that with the, Lex Luthor on his yacht with,
right. They teased like a Legion of Doom type thing, which would have been fine.
Yes.
I would have loved to have seen that. So,
they had a gangbang before they just had a couple single duns.
Yeah.
So
let's
we'll see how the Flash movie goes. Flash movie should correct.
That's the whole thing. Now they're more or less introducing their own multiverse, which it's like the problem with that is, well, Marvel's beating them to that punch too.
They have.
It's going to look like
kinda.
Yes and no in that aspect. I mean, they're just doing what it's already been done in the comics.
Here's the
DC.
thing.
Go ahead, Joe. Go ahead. No, I mean DC kills Marvel and animated series and shows, and they kill them with the normal TV shows.
Right. So
even though Marvel had the little run on Netflix, to all the other DC shows on WB just pretty much outpaced those.
Right. And the only reason those aren't on Netflix anymore is because Disney bought all that and said, nope, we're going to take control of that. But going to the DC TV shows and going to Flash introduced the multiverse. I think it was season 2. They introduced their Earth 1, Earth 2 kind of stuff. I'm pretty sure.
I think it was.
It might have been season 3 at the latest. It definitely was.
Yeah, that's when they did with Supergirl. There was a storyline, and him and Supergirl met up.
Yeah,
and that's when Supergirl was still on CBS.
Yeah,
before they got kicked off of CBS.
So they introduced the multiverse kind of theory before Marvel did it with the movies. but they just didn't do it on the bigger scale because it wasn't a theatrical movie. It was the TV series. And they've been running with that for quite a while now with The Flash. And it's interesting, when I watched the Flash trailer for the movie, it's almost like they are kind of taking the concept from the TV show and now putting it into the movie with the multiple flashes and stuff like that. So it's going to be interesting how they do that and see if they just run. I would hate to see them run the same story that's already been played out on the TV series.
Nah, I don't think they are. I think they're going to go.
I don't think they are, but even if they do, I mean, it's like it's different things. So
From what I've read, they're incorporating like what they did with the animated Flashpoint movie and parts of the Flashpoint in the comics.
Okay.
So they're kind of taking those two iterations per se. I think they're changing shit up too, like they always do. It's a movie. They're not gonna
go. But, hey, we're getting multiple Batman. So
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I did hear Michael Keaton's Batman voice in the trailer for The Flash that I saw. Yeah, that was interesting.
And Affleck's Batman is supposed to be in it too. So
yeah, that's interesting. So that'll be fun.
Well, so it's also going to be kind of fun because like that, the Flash movie comes out. I think it's next November or December now. But Keaton's going to be reappearing as Vulture in the Morbius movie, which will be out in March, I think. So
that looks cool. The new trailer for that looks cool.
I didn't see the new one yet, but the initial one, definitely intrigued me. So I like that Matt Smith's going to be in it because again, Doctor Who. So be interested to see what they do with him in that. But yeah, it's definitely intriguing looking because it's obviously a much different type of character and everything, and you never quite know what you're going to get out of Jared Leto. So
that's true. You watch the new trailer because they dropped some more like Spider-Man-esque hints in the new trailer.
So and then he even does. I think they say he's like, I'm not really a hero or a villain. Like he says that in the trailer.
Yeah, I think that they decided that they were going for like the anti-hero kind of thing. Kind of like Venom and what they've done with the two Venom movies so far, I think. Yeah. But I think there's still like this like hope or speculation that they're going to be building to like a Sinister Six thing. But at the same time, it's like, well, we got to wait to see what exactly happens in Spider-Man because I think Tom Holland has kind of said that he's done with it after this. So we'll see there.
So you guys,
they were supposedly building to the Sinister Six and the Amazing Spider-Man 2 at the end, but then of course they scrapped all of that. So
when you guys go see Eternals?
I don't know. I probably will not see it until it comes out on something available to me.
I'm hoping next week, but we'll see. I mean, I know it's not gotten the strongest reviews and it's long, but
a lot of the gripe is because it's a long movie. Whoop-de-doo, 2.5 hours. They didn't complain about Marvel, the Avengers, but it is what it is.
Well, it's because it's not Marvel Avengers. It's people that don't, unless you know the comics, you probably don't know who the Eternals. I didn't know what the Eternals was.
I'm just tired of the critics anymore because they nitpick on these fucking superhero movies because they want them to be like fucking Godfather like esque movies and plots and storylines. It's just annoying to listen to half the shit anymore. Mm-hmm. I'm going tomorrow at 5:00, so we'll see.
There's definite things with the pacing of the movie as well. I mean, like Endgame was like 3 hours long. Never really felt 3 hours long.
No.
The most recent Bond movie was like 2.5 hours, 2 hours 45 minutes. It felt longer than that. When a movie feels,
I don't know.
Then
for me it
there's
didn't.
A problem. Then there's a problem because that means that the pacing is just off. When a long movie doesn't feel like a long movie, then they did it right. That's the way I've always looked at it. So, like Lawrence of Arabia, it's 4 hours long. There's parts of it that drag, but for the most part, it doesn't because the story is very compelling and it switches up and there's enough like action scenes in it and stuff like that. So it all depends. But yeah, the most recent Bond movie felt like a slog to me. So
yeah,
Dune did a little bit too because I
haven't watched that yet.
I thought the pacing was a little off there, but that was more in terms of the storytelling. Like I've never read the book of Dune, but I've seen the original David Lynch directed version from the 80s, which of course was, a lot of people's minds a train wreck. And I watched the miniseries version they did on Sci-Fi Channel around the turn of the century. So I'm familiar enough with the story so that when I was watching this one, I was like, okay, so they're taking their time getting to this, and like all of a sudden, like the big thing happened, but then there was like more after that, which made it felt like it dragged a little towards the end. So I'm still very intrigued to see what they do with part 2, though. So
Pot. Yeah.
yes, part 2.
What do?
I gotta take a dip.
We'll take a do.
Before we get into involved in anything else, I just want to bring up something that we talked about last week. We're talking about NFL coaches and like, pulling the plug early and stuff like that, because we're talking about like the Eagles coach and the Giants coach and everything. And I mentioned how like, Zach Taylor had 2 disastrous first years, and it seems like the Bengals are turning it around this year. So that you got to give coaches like a little bit of time and everything. Thanks to a question on this one Giants blog I follow, I found a few other coaches who struggled at first and then turned it around. So I just wanted to kind of give those examples.
Okay.
Dick Vermeil, his first 2 years with the Eagles, they were 4-10 and 5-9. Then they went 9-7, 11-5, 12-4, made the Super Bowl. Ron Rivera with the Panthers, his first 2 years, they were 6-10, 7-9. Then they went 12-4. Then after a subpar year, they went 15-1 and went to the Super Bowl.
He lost.
Yes, but still 15-1 and went to the Super Bowl.
I'm just happy about that because Cam Newton never got a Super Bowl win. So
yeah,
go with that.
This is the one that amazed me because it was, it was before my lifetime, so I never really fully realized it. Bill Walsh, first 2 years of the 49ers, 2-14, 6-10. Year 3, 13-3, won the Super Bowl. And he won 2 more Super Bowls after that, and the only losing season they had was in the strike-shortened season of 1982. And, of course, he's in the Hall of Fame as a coach. So, it's just there are times where you do have to, I think, try to give him more than 2 years for a head coach unless he shows just overwhelmingly visible incompetence, which...
Well, my coach needs to go then.
I don't disagree with that at all, Pat. I totally agree with that. But in that process, the coach has to be given tools. Like if you're going to give him 3 years, let's say 3 years, you have to start giving him tools within those 3 years to start working with and building the team that you expect him to be able to coach and be a winner with.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know if the Eagles are going to do that. I haven't seen it in the past years. I mean, lightning in a bottle, 2017 season, the Eagles win the Super Bowl, and it's just been downhill from there. So.
Well, as a Giants fan, I can sympathize with you there because the Giants, like year after their Super Bowl wins, were like always pretty pathetic. Or in the case of 2008, it looked like we were going to win the Super Bowl again until somebody shot himself in the fucking leg in a nightclub.
That was the greatest story of that year. I was like, really? That guy shot himself? Like, really?
So sad.
And what were you saying, AJ?
Giants, they're like immediate years after the Super Bowl ones always suck. So.
Denver's not been good since they won the Super Bowl. So, I mean, it's hard to replace a Hall of Fame quarterback. So.
And they also had their issues with, like, their coach had to retire. So.
You savor when you get the Super Bowl wins, you savor them. Because one of us on here hasn't had one for a really long time.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, 1985, right, Joe?
You save them. You savor them when you get them.
I mean, my other teams have given me a bunch of championships since then, but that's what it is.
Yeah, as one of these weird bastards who likes both the White Sox and the Cubs, he's gotten to see both of those teams win the World Series. And neither of those teams have won a World Series since before the Great Depression, for Christ's sake. And in the case of one of the teams, since before World War I.
I know. That's why I'm like, what the Braves, the Atlanta Braves, was like, oh, wow, we haven't won a World Series since such and such. I'm like, shut the fuck up when you have 85 and 108 years. Come talk to me then.
Well, see, you know the kind of interesting thing about the Braves was, too? They won exactly one World Series when they were in Boston. They won exactly one World Series in their decade and a half in Milwaukee. And up till now, they had won exactly one World Series in Atlanta. So I was always joking with people sometimes that they were going to have to move again in order to win a World Series.
Someone on a sports show I listened to mention that too.
Yeah.
Found that odd.
Here's something else eerie about the Braves winning the World Series that I just saw. So Hank Aaron, of course, passed away earlier this year. And he, of course, wore number 44 for his, playing career. And it's been retired by the Braves and by the Brewers, which was weird. But anyway, the Braves won 44 games in the first half of the regular season. And they won 44 games in the second half of the regular season. And they clinched the World Series victory in the 44th week of the year.
Mm-hmm.
That's just like a creepy coincidence kind of thing. But I saw that today and I went, whoa, I just got to chill.
That is odd, really? Like, seriously.
Most teams, when their best player gets hurt, don't win the World Series, right?
Well, yeah, that's it. When Acuna got hurt earlier in the year, I just said, well, the Braves are done.
Right.
Luckily for them, they played in a division where the other two teams that were in contention couldn't get out of their own fucking way in the Mets and the Phillies.
And they made good trades.
Yes, they made the moves. They decided, you know what?
The right trades.
We're going for it, and it paid off for them. And you have to really commend them for that, because they could have packed it in when Acuna got hurt and said, well, this just ain't our year. They didn't do it. So
yeah,
kudos to them. And kudos to them for beating those cheating bastards from Houston.
That's right.
Yep. That's all I wanted.
Yeah. I mean,
that's all everybody wanted. The only people rooting for the Astros were Astros fans. Everybody else in America was rooting for the Braves.
Yeah, pretty much
like
almost the state of Texas, and that's it.
Right. And it's like when I think we said this probably when it got to the LCS and it was Atlanta against the Dodgers and Houston against Boston. I'm like, well, shit, I've got a choice between, the shit sandwich and the turd hoagie, in both leagues. So who's the team that least bothers me right now? Oh my God, it's the Braves. So
I'm going with the shit sandwich because it's smaller than the turd hoagie.
Oh my God.
Oh, I forgot to mention this is a double stack. Shit.
It depends which sandwich Jeremy.
So it's a club. It's a club.
Yeah, whichever one of those sandwiches Jeremy's responsible for, I'm staying away from.
I told my wife the story about when you lived in your house in PA and taking care of business in your small bathroom downstairs. She's like, really? I was like, yeah. I said, it wasn't really my fault. There was no fan in that fucking bathroom.
There wasn't.
So the stink just went everywhere.
I do remember the one time you forgot to close the door right away, and we all suffered for about a half an hour.
So
yep. Yes, we did.
10 days.
I forgot to close the door when I was doing that.
No, after
when you were done. Like you
when I was done.
You came out and you left the door open. Oh, I forgot to close the door. Like that. Closed it.
I don't remember that.
It was open for like 5 seconds, but that was enough to make us all suffer for half an hour.
So probably like 10 days ago, my brother Ned was like, I called him and I was like, what's up, Ned? And he's like, what are you doing? And I was at work. And he was at like the Hardee's restaurant right by my work, and we were about to open. And he's like, "Oh, well, I'll come over and see you." And when he came over, he's like, "Can I use your bathroom?" And he went in there and blew it up. And there was this girl working with me, and she's like, I don't think she got it, but she's like, I think you should go in there and clean since your brother was in there just for COVID reasons. So I had to go in there and clean after he was in there, and it was the whole back room. Guys, the whole back room smelled.
That's why I gotta say though, that's why I'm so grateful, and especially I'm grateful mostly for the female coworkers that I have. That my office has 2 bathrooms, so it makes things a lot easier to deal with.
That is a good thing.
I wish I had the Ace Ventura "Woo, don't go in there" soundbite right now.
Do not go in there. Woo!
I don't know if Jeremy's still clearly my brother Ned is still capable of it. I don't know if Jeremy still is, but clearly
yeah, I've still been capable, but I try to open windows and turn on fans to keep the stink down.
having oh Jesus, man. Sorry, I'm watching the Rangers game. They're now down 3-0 after they blew 2 leads earlier in the week and lost in overtime. They ain't getting overtime today, fucking Calgary. Anyway, yeah, having the exhaust fan is so important. Let me tell you.
It is.
It is.
It really.
Suck that stuff up into the attic. Let the attic stink.
Let it all go up.
Oh, man. So I think it's time for a little bit of wrestling. And for anybody that's watching us or you're listening in, don't worry. We do have a Mount Rushmore coming. We're going to be doing Mount Rushmore of our favorite groups or bands. So that'll be a good one. And let's see. We don't have any more details on our contest, how you're going to win, but you do have to tune into our live watch party of the Survivor Series in order to win a T-shirt. We're going to be giving away 2 T-shirts.
2 weeks. That's in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks, yep.
Tomorrow.
In 2 weeks from tomorrow, as we're recording this on Saturday. So you do have to tune in. Darth Pat already has our questions ready. So when you tune in, when we start doing those questions, we'll give you exactly how you're going to be able to win those shirts. But you will have to answer one of 2 questions in order to win a shirt. So there's only going to be 1 winner per question. 2 questions, 2 winners. So if you want to win, you want to get a sweet T-shirt from the 4 Guys Roundtable show, you'll want to tune in at that time. All right, so let's talk a little bit of wrestling. And with that, we have to play my favorite soundbite for wrestling. Oh, yeah! So,
yes, I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions, and I want to have them answered immediately.
when you have a podcast and 2 days before the podcast, WWE releases a bunch of people, it's like, hey, look, we got something to talk about right off the bat.
I know.
And again, not just that they released a bunch of people, but that they released a bunch of people with like the supposed reason to be budget cuts right after they not only announced but bragged about how they just posted record profits, which they were also saying that like, oh, we're revising our projections to bump them up. So naturally, that's when you go and fire a shitload of people.
Oh, son of a bitch!
This is the second time they've done it where other than Frankie Monet, I don't give a fuck about the rest of them. So I'm laughing about all the rest of them. So
I honestly, when I looked at the list, I was like, there's only one I see on here that I actually know. I'm like, who the hell are the rest of these fucking people?
I mean, I'm not going to laugh at people losing their jobs, but it's
if you suck, you suck.
I mean, that's a matter of opinion in some
Right.
cases. I mean, a lot of there are about half the list are people I guess that only have really been in NXT, so I didn't have a great deal of familiarity with them. But in some cases, it's like I could actually understand them firing Nia Jax because
Oh yeah, I did know that name too. Sorry. So
she had a lot of opportunities
To hurt people.
She hurt people.
She was part of the Hurt Locker.
And there was a sense of, well, what the hell else can we do with her right now? So it's like this was like the whole thing where it's like back in like the territory days. This was like the whole go learn a new hold thing. It means like go work somewhere else, and then hey, maybe we'll reevaluate, and if you've gotten better, we'll bring you back in 18 months or something like
Supposedly
that.
But
she's a non-vaxxer.
She was actually supposed to return next week.
Yeah, but I think AJ's right there, and that probably played into it as well. Which also kind of makes you wonder where AJ Styles is right now, though, because they said that he's out supposedly with a non-injury medical issue, which it's like, well, if that's not he's positive for COVID, then what the fuck is it? Kind of.
He has the sniffle, a chew.
Yeah, it just makes one wonder. But I mean, that's all. It is.
Eva Marie should have never been rehired. So Eva Marie.
No, that one never made sense to me.
I never understood why they hired her in the first place. The Karrion Kross thing, total debacle. I mean, obviously, I think they could have had something there, but As soon as they, like somebody said, well, as soon as they bring him into the main roster and they turn him into discount store super shredder, it's like
Nice.
you just
Poor
have
man's gladiator.
going anymore.
Now,
And then the Keith Lee thing. I mean, I know AJ hates Keith Lee, but it felt like again they fucked around with him a couple of times and didn't seem to know what to do with him. So, okay, fine. Now there's a thing coming out saying that he had attitude issues, which really feels like a cover. I mean, even if he did,
Some of it is.
Karrion Kross and Keith Lee had the worst main event at a takeover ever. That match was a fucking train wreck. And if somebody tries to tell me that match wasn't a train wreck, they weren't watching the same match that me and the rest of my friends were watching, saying this match is terrible. So that match
I didn't
was
see
the worst
it, so
main event at a takeover. It was a decent takeover that got ruined by that match. I did not like Keith Lee the first time I saw him. I was not impressed. I've seen other big guys like Samoa Joe and Kevin Owens wrestle, and they are better wrestlers than him. And Kevin Owens is way better on the mic. I think Keith Lee was average at best on the mic. I think he was awful, but some people say the guy had charisma. I did not see that charisma ever. So, and I know other people, not you guys, but there are other people that also thought he was terrible. So it's not just me. I didn't see it. I don't understand why people liked him. I didn't see anything with him. Cross, he had a really good entrance and really good theme music. But in NXT, they booked him as the prototypical big man, where they let him do 6 moves. And Joe has told me that he was a better wrestler previously. I'm inclined to give him the benefit of the doubt on that, but I didn't see anything from him in NXT to make me say, I can't wait to see this guy wrestle again.
right. So, I mean, almost what you're saying there, again, there is pretty much, WWE dropped the ball,
Well, and the couple times that I got to see Keith Lee wrestle, I was not impressed. I'm like, this is, he's your typical big guy. Like there was nothing to me that made him special, that made him stand out from a crowd of people. Well, so it doesn't make sense to keep.
If he had came along before Samoa Joe or Kevin Owens, maybe he's different. But he's trying to follow these two guys. Samoa Joe has set the bar pretty high for big guys in the ring. He set the bar high 8 to 10 years when he was in TNA. He set that bar pretty high. Yeah. And then you bring Owens, who's probably the best big guy I've ever seen on the mic, and he's a good wrestler. It's hard to follow those two guys and do something different than them that makes you stand out. So
yeah, and it's just in WWE, we all know this. They are notorious for not letting they just put people in this is what we want you to be. You make it work. They don't give a lot of leeway for guys to come up with their own gimmicks, and especially because all gimmicks have to be run through Vince. Like we know Vince is the end all be all with storylines and this and that, and especially when it comes to gimmicks, he gives his approval on all gimmicks. So if you can't come up with a really good gimmick and a name to go with that gimmick, you're doing whatever they want you to do.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah,
and it's really hard to get him to buy into your gimmick. Like it's not an easy thing for you to come up with a gimmick that he's going to like and approve of and give you the A-OK to run with.
Yeah, so, they're very much square pegging, round holing people.
Oh,
but
yeah.
There are also guys, though, who, if you have an unlimited resource of charisma, or you have a ton of charisma, you can make things work, even if you're given a shit stick. And I don't think Keith Lee had charisma, and I don't think he was going to be able to turn something that was mediocre into something good, because I don't think he was really that good at that kind of stuff. So
no, some guys can't, and it really comes down to, okay, this is what I've been given. How can I take this shit sandwich and turn it into chicken salad? How can I make this work for me? Like,
I can turn chicken shit into chicken salad.
Yeah, that too. But anyways, however you want to put it, I like just regular shit sandwich. Okay, that's just me. But how do
I don't understand. I just don't understand how you're turning shit into chicken. That's all.
Because I got magical freaking powers, man. Don't you
Okay,
know?
we need to
I'm a wizard.
specify that.
I'm a wizard, don't you know?
No, I didn't.
But honestly, I mean, it becomes the talent's ability to be able to take what they're given, make it their own within their personality, their abilities. And a lot of people, unfortunately, they are not able to buy into what they've been given and say, okay, I've been given the turd. How do I make it shine? You know, and evidently Keeley was not one of those guys that could take what they were saying, this is what we want you to be, and making it shine. And it happens all too often. You know, Karrion Kross, another one. I thought his gimmick was terrible. And that doesn't mean that he was terrible, but his gimmick is terrible, which makes him look bad. You know, Nia Jax, her gimmick was good. She fit the gimmick perfectly, but she just was not able to do anything with that gimmick. Like, that was the perfect gimmick for her. She just couldn't make it work.
I mean, she worked when she was with Shayna, but that's the only time she ever really worked, and that's because she was with somebody else. That
the pairing with Alexa worked especially when they finally turned her because Alexa was just constantly bullying her. That worked for a time, but then they seemed like they pulled the plug on that a little too fast.
she hurts people.
Yeah.
Like at
Yeah,
what point
that's the problem.
I mean, when she punched Becky, they got lucky, and that worked. That turned into, like, you know, a lightning in a bottle. But that obviously didn't plan that. They didn't say, "Hey, Nia, go punch Becky and bust her open, and we're gonna make a star out of this." Like, that happened by accident. So Nia probably got some credit inadvertently for that because she set the Becky thing in motion. But that was not her intentional doing, and she just punched her really hard, and so she really hurt Becky even there.
Yeah.
So.
You know, the interesting thing here, though, in my mind is, we're talking about both Nia Jax and Keith Lee here. You're talking about how Nia hurt people, and talk about, Keith Lee just as general look, build, I guess you could say. Just kind of contrast it with Mark Henry, in a way. This isn't a fair comparison in a lot of ways, but Mark Henry came along so slowly, if you remember, from when they first brought him on TV back in 1996 and everything. He also hurt people. He also took, it seemed, forever to find the right gimmick, and he got hurt a lot, so he was kind of in and out and everything. But eventually they did find something with him that made him work in it, that made it work and everything. And that took like years. Now, I know Keith Lee's a little older than Mark Henry was then and everything, but it's just kind of interesting where it's like, once again, it's like they just don't want to seem to give guys enough time to develop or anything. And this is why I also think NXT is a little detrimental, because, and this is why, like I've said repeatedly, why I never really wanted to watch NXT. It seems like too many guys are forced to change something from what worked in NXT for them. When they come up to the main roster, then they're expected to be something completely different. And the joke, I guess, has always been that, because Vince never watched NXT, so he didn't know what the hell was going on there. It might as well have been WCW or whatever. So I don't know. It just feels short. It just feels so short-sighted in a lot of ways. And again, I still don't know what it is that they're trying to do here with NXT 2.0. It seems like the only thing that they got going for them right now is Rick Steiner's kid and
Carmelo Hayes. I think Carmelo Hayes is special. I think he's another one that they got that's got superstar written on him. So
but like one of my friends, he was amazed how Ciampa's still there, and I think I told him, I said I'm pretty sure Ciampa doesn't want to come up to the main roster.
He has said he will retire.
Yeah, and I think they're fine with that. So if he wants to stay in NXT forever, I mean, that's, let him be the guy that helps get other people over, I guess, kind of. So that's fine. But I don't know. This all just seems like one big fucking mess. It's like, and we all want to say, oh well, maybe things will get better once Vince is gone. We have no way of knowing that. I mean, God only knows what'll happen to the company by then. I mean, they could be sold, to some
Oh,
corporation.
who's really going to be in charge?
Right.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
honestly,
again,
we know Stephanie's the head of creative right now, and the fact that
well, that's
a title.
But the thing of it is that it doesn't seem like she has a lot of power right now either. I mean, it sounds like it's all Vince and Pritchard and Laurinaitis and Nick Khan, who's on the business side of it. But again, it's like let's say they theoretically sell to some corporation. Again, NBC Universal is the most likely because of the Peacock deal and everything. Even though that would obviously piss off Fox to no end. I think we've all seen corporate ownership of wrestling is terrible because that's ultimately what fucked WCW.
You can keep going, Pat, but I'm going to tell Jeremy. Jeremy, see if you can find Max Caster doing his rap on Daniel Bryan last night. It was pretty funny from
boy.
I heard about it.
So you can continue, Pat. I just wanted Jeremy to start looking for. He's in the Acclaim, Jeremy. His name's Max Caster, and he did a rap on Daniel Bryan last night. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, it was. It definitely was. But and now, of course, everybody's going to speculate how many of these people will end up in AEW.
I don't really want to see any of them there personally, but
I don't know that any of them would really add a lot to AEW. Maybe Karrion Kross and Scarlett if they actually kept them together as an entity. Yeah, maybe Frankie Monet, like you said. It's really hard to say. Thing of it is, again, AEW's got a bloated ass roster as it is, so adding people isn't necessarily the right way to go for them, especially because their ratings haven't really gotten any better. I think I read that their Dynamite rate, the most recent Dynamite rating on Wednesday was the lowest it had been in a long time. So it's like we know they have guys that I think are more wanting to be seen by a certain part of the audience, but again, it's starting to look more and more likely like it's just a certain part of the audience. So, I mean, if AEW wasn't going to getting big momentum from Punk, Danielson, and Cole, what is going to get it?
No, but that means they do have to be selective. That you have to be selective and say, okay, do we want Bray Wyatt or not? Because to me, he's somebody that they could sign in January. Do we want Kevin Owens? Is Kevin Owens a guy that's really worth it? Like, you get guys like that when they come along, maybe those are the guys, but I don't think you just need to sign everybody that's available. And you're right. And I think they did that. And I think they need to back off of that and be more selective about the guys that they do pick. So, because I don't think they need everything. I think they need pieces, but not everything.
I think they need to be a little bit more coherent with some of their storylines. And I think they need to be a little bit more selective with who they're putting on TV. Like they did that little thing with Pillman Jr. and MJF, and Pillman Jr. disappeared. I mean, I'm not really a fan of his, but the crowd likes Orange Cassidy, and it seems like he's not consistent with his appearances in a lot of ways. Meanwhile, they're giving all this TV time to fucking Jericho, who should retire. And all this, and I'm sorry, all this America's Top Team, like, I don't give a fuck about a bunch of MMA people being in wrestling and everything. And it seems like, I guess, that the agreement or whatever between AEW and Impact is over. So Gallows and Anderson are gone, which could stay that way then. And I don't know if that means Callis is gone too, but I also feel maybe it should stay that way and just let those four guys do whatever they're going to do. But I just feel like, and that's one of the problems I've had with trying to watch AEW. It's like, I don't know if I always feel like watching both shows, each week. But also it's like, so if I watch Dynamite one week and then I watch Dynamite the next week, it's like, I'm not always necessarily getting like the same thing. You know what I kind of mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't think Dynamite was good this week. I thought Rampage, a 1 hour show, was better than the 2 hour show. And I didn't think the women's match last night was great, but I still thought the show overall, they had Daniel Bryan on. They had CM Punk and fucking Kingston tear the house down in one of the best face-to-faces I've seen in a long time. And they had Adam Cole fight John Silver. So they had their three newest like stars all on that 1 hour show last night. So that show was better than Dynamite this week. And then I told Joe, I knew we were going to get gold from Kingston and CM Punk on the mic, and it happened last night.
Yep.
So
the only problem there to a certain respect is when you have like 3 hours of television, and I know they have their YouTube shows. You can't always have those guys on both shows because there is a little bit of a less is more aspect to it, and it's just also because you do have other guys in your roster who you do need to build. So
but those guys like Cole and Brian didn't wrestle on Wednesday. Yeah. Like Cole was in a backstage segment for 5 minutes and Brian wasn't on. Or
well,
Brian
that's
was
fine. Yeah, that's fine. So
you got the promo up here.
If you're gonna do that with them on Dynamite, like where their like appearances are minimal or like limited to like a backstage promo or something, and then have them wrestle on Rampage, yeah, that's fine. That works for me.
All right, shall I go now?
Yes.
Okay.
Listen. Yo. The Acclaim. We only do numbers, but this guy's too busy growing cucumbers. Don't be mad at me, bro, because you only known for your wife's reality show. And you should eat some eggs. Look at Bowen's arms, they're bigger than your legs. I'ma put you in the poverty, dog, because I end careers quicker than your father-in-law.
I'm stiff. What a treat Caster is.
I don't know who that Bowens guy is, but
I don't think AEW should be taking pot shots at WWE all the time because it's like focus on yourself, make your own product.
But that one was still classic.
Considering the context where it's like they really just callously fired 18 people after they were talking about record profits, that was fucking gold.
And who he said father-in-law? Who is
John
Laurinaitis?
Yeah. Brie and Nikki Bella's mother is married to John Laurinaitis since 2016.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. No, I did not know that.
Oh, okay. They showed it in some backstage things that were on like the network.
If you watched the reality show like I did, you would have known.
I don't know if I'm bragging about that.
Sorry.
So,
I will. I don't care.
Bowens,
It
I don't
intrigued me.
really like Bowens, but Caster's hilarious, and Caster is a pretty good wrestler too. So, and Bowens and Daniel Bryan had a decent match. So,
yeah, no, that was pretty funny with the cucumber bit,
Oh yeah, it was
Especially
hilarious.
because, as we all know, cucumbers are fucking horrible.
I disagree.
I do not like cucumbers.
I don't like cucumbers. I like pickles just fine, but I cannot stand.
I don't like pickles.
You don't like You don't like a sweet gherkin in your mouth?
No. I like to give a sweet gherkin to someone's mouth, but I don't want it.
hey, somebody said last night that John Silver looks like Boris Sukov. I was like, yes, he does.
Who is John Silver? I am not familiar.
Johnny
with
Hungy from the Dark Order. He's the little guy that's always flexing his muscles.
Now I got to look this up. You said John Silver looks like who?
Boris Zukov.
You remember Boris Zukov? He was one half of the Bolsheviks with Nikolai Volkov.
I know.
Silver does kind of look like him. It's not
A little bit,
terrible comparison. So one of the announcers said it last night. I don't know which one, but one of them made the comparison. Pat, did you? I try to get at least one tidbit of entertainment from Mr. Cornette each week. So his thing. Did you see what he said about to Adam Cole this week? Or
did I see what about him and Adam Cole?
Jim Cornette kind of shit on Adam Cole.
Yeah,
Guilt by association. It's like guilt by association with him.
Right.
Now.
It's I'm going to be honest. I filter that shit out when Cornette starts going on those rants because it's repetitive with his dissing of Omega and the Bucks, and it's like I have my own issues with the Bucks, not so much with Omega. I mean, I understand why Cornette doesn't like Omega. Some of those things it's like I never saw him, so it's in my mind didn't happen. I don't care about him. Who gives a fuck? Some of the ways in which he criticizes Omega, I still don't think I really don't think are fair.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I can I understand why he's criticizing him. It's like if they want to have fun on a Halloween episode and everything, it's like, okay, great. In a way, though, it is like these are the guys who are supposed to be like, basically your top heels in the company. And it kind of gives off a thing of like, we don't take business seriously. So I understand why Cornette will get pissy with something like that. To me, it's just like, well, that's the way the business has been for how long now. It's not necessarily their fault or anything like that. So again, it's not something that I'm going to get up in arms about.
But like, I guess him, because he hangs out with the Bucks or Kenny or whatever, if he's a really good wrestler, hanging out with the Young Bucks isn't going to change whether you go out in the ring and put on a show or not. Like it doesn't really change that. So like you can't just
I
like
agree.
this guy, all of a sudden you were one of the best wrestlers in the world, and because you're hanging out with the Young Bucks, all of a sudden you're not. And I just don't. That's the part of it I don't like think is right, because he is one of the best in-ring performers right now. And just because he's hanging out with the wrong people doesn't change the fact that he's not going to go out and have a banger of a match like he did last night and like he does every fucking time he's on TV. It doesn't change that. So
right, I agree. Yeah, it's like don't go denigrating like his abilities, whether it's on the mic or in the ring, just because he's hanging out with the three people that you loathe more than anything else in the world.
And Joe,
you can still praise the guy for his work while saying, I just wish he wasn't attached to these guys.
And I don't know when you guys were listening the other night, but Joe made it very, very the best thing Joe said the whole time the other night was when he
the
was
only
talking
thing I
about,
said that was the best thing.
That's awesome.
I'm kidding.
was he said that AEW doesn't have that like Brock Lesnar, I'm scared of you type villain.
Yes, I was listening during that point, and
oh my god, they do. Oh, if he had the beard, if his beard was
it.
more fuller, holy shit.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.
Wow.
And I do think that Moxley Moxley could have been that guy. I think that they could have made Moxley that guy, and more power to Moxley for checking himself into rehab. He knows he has a problem. I have I've seen dipshit people on the internet making fun of him for it, and I'm like, you guys are assholes. So, and for him
it takes a lot more to acknowledge that you have a problem and to seek help for it,
and
to ignore it.
For Punk to come out the other night and do what he did on television was as classy as the thing as I've ever seen. For Punk to come out and give a shout out to Mox and like have the fans, like, he didn't have to go out and do that. He didn't have to do that. Nobody told him to go out and do that. He did that of his own accord. That was a pretty classy thing for CM Punk to go out and do the other night. So
the only drawback, if you will, when he comes back, it's going to be very hard to turn him heel now.
Yeah, you're right.
It's going to be the same thing for like it's going to be the same thing with like Roman when he came back from cancer. You do not want to make a heel out of somebody who just overcame a very real personal issue. So
it's going to take a while.
I was listening at that point on Thursday, and you're absolutely right. Like, yeah, AEW does not have the Brock Lesnar heel. They don't have the Undertaker Ministry of Darkness.
The Roman Reigns is a good person to use as an example. Even
the closest thing that I think that they have to that right now is Aleister Black, and I feel like they've already done a couple things with him where it's like, well, he doesn't even fit that bill either.
Aleister Black would work if Bray Wyatt comes in as the outsider, another outsider, and they form their own group and add somebody else maybe. And I I thought about this after the show the other day. I thought about Aleister Black. He kept popping up in my head. But I'm like, you bring Bray Wyatt in, and to be honest with you, I know you guys might not like this. Some of them probably aren't. But if you're going to bring outsiders in to say try to destroy the company, bring Bray and then bring Braun right in with him. You see, I knew AJ was going to give that thing. But if you work it the right way, as I'm using the word outsiders, but people from the other company coming in and wanting to destroy something that you've, created, you use a storyline like that, it could work.
The only issue I would have with that is I think that they did. I think they did enough things to Bray's character towards the end, which was more hokey than anything else, and didn't come off the way you wanted. It really could have or should have. Yeah. And same thing with Braun. They couldn't ever really reconcile once they turned him face of how much of a monster they wanted him to be.
Yeah.
It's hard to be a monster face. So.
I think Joe's idea to some people has merit, just not to me and a lot of my friends. We don't want that shit. So,
well, the biggest issue I would have with something like that. The biggest issue I would have with something like that is, who do you match them up against? What faces do you match them up against? And I'm sure AEW's thing would be Cody, and I'm like, yeah, but the audience is still going to fucking boo him.
They are kind of booing him, so he would not really be the best person in that scenario. I mean, Pac.
If you want to get the fans to cheer for him again, you would put Cody in, but you have to put somebody else.
You know who you bring in to go against Braun Strowman? You all know who it should be. Come on, think a little bit. Well, I'm going to give you his catchphrase. Feed me more.
Oh my God. Please no.
Come on, a little Ryback.
That guy's a douchebag.
He's
CM Punk would say no to that one right away.
Yes. CM Punk
I think several others would say no to that right away too.
CM Punk would veto that quicker than Jordan vetoed Isaiah Thomas on the Dream Team. So.
Are you kidding me? If Tony Khan came to Punk and said, "I want to bring Ryback in," I think Punk would probably say, "Nice work, been nice working with you. I'm out here."
Okay. See ya.
I'm gonna go to Impact. I'll see you later.
No, I think at that point, Punk would just call it a career.
Yeah, he would. He would.
So, do we want to talk about the Survivor Series teams real quickly?
Sure.
Yeah,
real quick, because we got to jump on to. Well, not jump on to. We got to move on to.
Because I have no idea. I have not heard these yet.
Are you going to read them, Pat? Or?
So I just want to preface this again real quickly. And if you've been following our show, we bitched about this last year, that the problem with continuing to do Survivor Series matches is that they have no impact. They have no stakes. There's no consequences. Like the last time there was when they did the whole Team Cena versus Team Authority thing, and that was 7 fucking years ago already.
Yeah,
and making Survivor Series irrelevant except for the title matches.
Yes.
Right, yeah. But so I'm talking specifically Survivor Series matches, so the traditional 5-on-5 elimination matches. So this year, WWE decided to take a shit in our mouths even more so than they have by just randomly announcing 2 5-on-5 Survivor Series matches, one male, one female, both Raw versus SmackDown, and they just randomly announced these this afternoon on fucking Twitter.
Yay!
So that should give you an idea of how much WWE values these matches. So anyway, here are the teams.
Do the women's one first.
Okay, so the Raw's women's team.
Because we're men.
Bianca Belair, Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan, Carmella, and Queen Zelina.
Okay, I'm very confused by that team because aren't there some heels with those?
Oh faces? Yeah, they don't care.
Yeah, when they do, ever since they've been doing these Raw versus SmackDowns, it's always been a mixture of faces and heels. Now, I just need to ask this question: Liv Morgan, which is she right now?
I have no clue.
She's a face. So you got 3 faces, 2 heels. Now, my biggest question before we move on, well, 2 questions. First of all, if Rhea Ripley's on the team, why isn't Nikki Cross, Nikki?
That's the best question you can ask right now. Why the fuck is she not on there?
Aren't they the women's tag team champions?
Yes.
So why aren't they both on this team? No offense to Liv Morgan, but why is Nikki Ash not on this team instead of Liv Morgan?
Oh, I would take Zelina Vega off and put Liv Morgan on. So,
well, we know the reason why Zelina's on there. She just won Queen's Cup.
Yeah.
Well, I'll take Carmella off there because Morgan should be on that. Like Liv Morgan has to be on that team, I think. So
okay. And then, of course, the other interesting thing is this almost basically indicates to me that they're either putting a pause or they're just moving on from Bianca versus Becky.
Well, I feel like they're moving on from that. Becky won, so I feel like
she won on SmackDown or on
But
Raw.
I also have a feeling I'm just guessing then they're going to do more just like Raw versus SmackDown matches. And this means Becky will be fighting Charlotte again.
I feel like Joe's boy Corey Graves is getting Carmella TV time.
Probably.
All right, so the SmackDown's women's team.
Mm-hmm.
Sasha Banks, Shayna Baszler, Shotzi, Natalya, and Aaliyah.
The worst person in there is Aaliyah. So
I don't even think I've ever seen Aaliyah. So there's that.
Not a whole lot to see.
And obviously the intriguing part of this, I guess you could say, is the fact that, Shotzi just beat the shit out of Sasha last week, I guess. I still haven't actually read what happened on SmackDown last night. But Shotzi and Sasha on the same team, and Shane is obviously a loose cannon and everything. So
I think
that is going to be a clusterfuck.
Yes.
Yeah, there's going to be like infighting on the team like they always do. With
and I know AJ will not like this, but I think this would be cool, and they're not going to do it because it's only Survivor Series, it's not WrestleMania. But they should have like them all come down in like tiny tanks. That would be cool.
Fuck no.
I said you wouldn't like it.
One tank is bad enough.
And I had a feeling Jerry was going there with that.
And they could shoot. They could have cap guns in the cannons. They could. Fucking awesome.
If this was like the old days when the Survivor Series was still kind of a novel concept and it was about settling feuds and shit, and like they had like nicknames for the team and they had the team captains concept. Yeah, if Shotzi was the team captain, then sure, have them all come out ride mini tanks. But we're not at that 1988 level of hope.
I know. Fucking go back, man. Sometimes you got to go back to the original and make it good again.
I will take you back to the start. Okay. So the men's teams now. The Raw men's team.
Oh boy.
I like this. I like most of this team.
Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, Kevin Owens, and Rey and Dominic Mysterio. So my initial thoughts at seeing that are, well, Owens had that thing and had that match on Monday with Big E and was saying that Rollins interfered when he didn't want his help, and he then challenged Rollins to a match, I think, for this coming week's Raw, and so that's kind of interesting. And then Rollins on the same team as the Mysterios. I mean, I know it was a year ago, so we're not supposed to remember that this shit happened. But, Rollins was literally trying to kill Rey Mysterio for a good portion of last year. So just the fact that they're all on the same team was kind of interesting there. And it's also interesting then that Rollins is the only heel. I'm still considering Owens a face for the time being, as though it seems like he may be turning heel. You got Rollins and 4 faces there. So and Rollins being Rollins will, of course, insist that he's the leader and everything. And obviously, Balor, Owens, and Rey will all dispute that.
Dominic could be the new heel on that team. As
I'm trying to figure out when they're gonna
pay-per-view ends.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out when they're gonna move on from Rey Mysterio and say, okay, this guy has had his time.
Yes.
And time again.
Yeah.
And again.
When Dominic turns on his dad, maybe his dad will finally ride off into the sunset. So.
Well, I mean, hey, if they really want to invest in Dominic and get him over, retiring his father would probably be the best way to do that. But
absolutely.
And then they could be like booyaka booyaka bye bye bye.
Yeah, but this is WWE, so they inevitably won't do that. All right, so the SmackDown team: Drew McIntyre, Jeff Hardy, King Woods. That just does not sound right. Sami Zayn.
Sounds like a place you go.
And Happy Corbin.
That team's bad.
Happy Corbin?
Happy
Yeah, he goes
Corbin.
by Happy Corbin now.
That team,
Yeah.
that team's bad, in my opinion.
Yeah. Now, obviously, the first thought, of course, is, well, you put Woods on the team, and again, I know why Woods is on the team because he just won King of the Ring. But so why isn't Kofi also on the team?
Yeah, that's true.
Obviously, Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens being on opposite teams, I'm sure there will be a moment where they're in the ring together, so that'll always be entertaining. But yeah, that team in a lot of ways just looks weaker than the Raw team. Like,
it's terrible.
Like obviously weaker. So.
And like you guys didn't. Not everybody on here watched SmackDown.
Not yet.
The stuff with Woods and Kofi as the king, and it is terrible. It is so bad to me. It is more annoying. And I want to like Woods as the king, and they're annoying the fucking shit out of me already.
So what do they have? Woods as the king and Kofi as the court jester?
No, he's the knight, but they like talk king. He like talks like he's like that the king. Like he has that like just like it's bad. And I texted.
Is he talking the way Booker T did when he became king?
Yes,
with like the fake accent and shit.
Yeah.
Yes, it's corny, and it's like. And I understand people like the New Day, and that's fine. To me, this is worse than the other stuff they've been doing. And I texted Jay at the end of SmackDown last night, and I was like, nothing makes me more happy than watching the New Day get their ass kicked right now. So,
okay, you said that Kofi's the knight. So are they referring to him as Sir Kofi the way that
yes,
the way that Mo became Sir Mo
I
when
guess.
Abel won King of the Ring?
It was just that it's corny, and it's just no.
Yeah, every time
I wanted to be happy for Xavier being the king, and they've already ruined it.
Yeah, every time they've done King of the Ring since it stopped being a pay-per-view, they've really like gone full scale into like just total like hokey stupidity with it. And the only time it ever worked was with Booker T.
If there is, I'm sure there's people out there. I'm pretty sure it's not us, thankfully. If there's somebody out there that actually thinks Happy Corbin and this Madcap Moss idiot are funny, they're terrible. So
I remember Cornette's co-host, and the only reason I'm bringing this up is because I remember a couple months ago he was praising the shit out of Corbin when he said he had never liked Corbin before. This was when Corbin was doing the like the I'm broke shit and everything.
Yes.
He said he thought Corbin was nailing that part.
He
of
was.
it. I don't think I've heard him say anything positive though since he became Happy Corbin. So
and he got Riddick Moss and as a stooge that tells terrible jokes.
Yeah, and Madcap Moss, it's like Madcap is a term out of the 1940s for Christ's
Well, he
sake.
wears like suspenders and
What?
he wears like a white shirt with suspenders over it, and they're trying to make him look like he's back then, Pat.
Look,
Jeremy, can we find a clip of Happy Corbin and Madcap Moss?
Of course.
I mean, look, I'm all for like references to like the golden age of Hollywood and stuff. Not in wrestling.
I was actually I don't really like the Viking Raiders either, but last night I wanted them to beat up Happy Corbin and Madcap Moss. So,
Oi.
Yeah.
You said it, Holmes.
Like you said, you don't really much like the Viking Raiders. I'd much rather see them wrestling the Usos or the New Day than the Usos and the New Day wrestling each other.
Yes, and then we got to see Hit Row minus B-Fab last night too. So.
Oh yeah, because she
got cut.
Okay, I didn't know if B-Fab was she or he.
She got cut. And
yeah, but she got fired. It's like they literally just like brought them up to the main roster. You're fired.
She was bad. What I've seen of her in the ring, she was bad. Like she was Jade Cargill level, maybe worse, Pat, in the ring.
Oh, I thought he was just like the valet manager.
Oh no, they
I
put her in
didn't-
the ring twice in NXT, and it didn't go well. I don't know how long she's been at the Performance Center. Maybe she's been there for 5 months, and they said, "All right, we're done with you." She wasn't a good.
I mean,
There you go, Pat.
that could very well be why they got rid of her then.
Yes.
So.
There he is with the suspenders on.
That's I don't even I'm gonna turn on the music, but
He does wear a cap.
Well, they
Got
tell
it all figured out.
this music's terrible.
If Happy Corbin and Madcap Moss are going to be laughing when they welcome their Happy Talk guests. Corbin and Moss.
Oh, they had the Viking Raiders on.
Okay,
So two terrible guys with two more terrible guys.
if their gimmick is going to be that they're all happy and everything like this, and look, I know they are still supposed to be heels, but if their gimmick is that they're all supposed to be like happy and everything, then they should be trying to slap the fans' hands as they're coming down the aisle and everything. And if the fans want to slap their hands, fine. But like you would hope that the fans are like pulling away from them and everything. That would make it even better. But it's like if you're really wanting to sell that this is their gimmick, then they should be doing shit.
How many chances does Corbin get to be repackaged? And like he's gotten like 18 attempts. So this is where
He must really do a lot of backstage stuff for
so
the
this
company.
would be where what you referred to earlier with like Keith Lee or Karrion Kross. They gave Keith Lee this many chances and said you're done, but Corbin's been around for 6 years and they keep repackaging him and trying again and again and nothing works. But
And I still
keep giving him chances.
And I don't understand it. Like I never saw the one that Darth Pat was talking about, that version of Baron Corbin. But every version that I have seen, I could care less that he's even there. He's like I want to boo if I was there because I just don't want to see him.
He has a cool finisher, and that's it. That's the only thing he really has had going for him this whole time. Is he has a cool finisher. He has one of the better finishers in wrestling. It's a badass finisher. But that only gets you so far.
Yeah, there's been nothing that I've seen. I'm like, that makes me say, this guy's got something.
He's a shining example of somebody that they've repackaged over and over and over again, and it's not worked ever. Maybe it's working. Maybe this is working. Maybe they think this is working. His best thing he did was when he was doing the broke character. That was working. But they like jumped from that to the rich person too fast. It's like they were like, oh, he's been broke for 3 weeks. We got to do something with this. And I think it would have been better if he would have been broke for longer. I think they like fast tracked it and they could have slow burned it a little bit more. Maybe I still don't really want to see him every week, but the broke character worked. But they were like, maybe he got bored of it and said, I don't want to do this anymore. And because they had just done this with Cameron Grimes in NXT, it also felt like a ripoff. Oh, we did this Cameron Grimes in NXT and it worked. So now we're going to do this on the main roster because it'll work. And the difference being Cameron Grimes actually has charisma and is entertaining. Baron Corbin, not so much.
True. All right. So let's move on to our final segment of the night, which is our Mount Rushmore. So who won? Oh, well, I had to remember to tell everybody what Mount Rushmore is this week instead of just rushing right into it. You know, gotta give everybody a little taste of what it's gonna be before you give them the whole thing.
Darth Pat is going back to the dark side.
Oh no!
Come out.
Will he come out a different hole? All right.
No fans. This is not going to be the Mount Rushmore that Joe and Jeremy want, where we pick our 4 favorite porn stars. Sorry.
I don't know if I could pick 4. I don't even know 4. I'll be honest.
I could do this. I could do this in a heartbeat. I gotta think.
And I'd have to probably throw some ones out.
I think Pat could do it too.
I think so too. So our Mount Rushmore this week is going to be our 4 favorite groups or bands of all time. So
it came back through the same door.
Ooh.
Yes, I switched it up on you this time.
Did everything work? Did everything work
Pat.
out okay?
No.
Was there good flow?
So Pat, just to let you know, our next Mount Rushmore is going to be our 4 favorite porn stars. You down?
Yes.
Sweet.
I'd have to do some research. I don't know the names of the people that I watch. Just
I'm
like
good. I could do it right now.
Sonny,
So let's-
China.
Oh Jesus God!
Evidently, AJ's watched those videos.
No, I'm just throwing that out there because I haven't really watched anything.
I've watched them because
that's what every guilty man says. I don't watch that stuff.
Not recently, no.
Not recently.
I put an asterisk thing on there and said not recently. So
I want the truth.
You can't handle the truth.
I have that one too. All right. So who wants to go first? Who's going to take the ball and run with it with their 4 bands or groups?
Darth Pat.
Ooh, Darth Pat.
Joe still hasn't. We don't even know if Joe has this 4 yet.
I forgot our Mount Rushmore topic, but I know my 4, so I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good now.
Real quick, let me try to find. I want to look something up.
But Pat can still go first.
Yeah, I'll go first. I just need to. Oh shit!
What are you looking up?
Don't worry about it.
We don't need a diatribe of what their history of the band is.
Yes.
No.
Before I give you the names of the bands, I want to tell you a little history on each one.
Do the what again, Jeremy? This is ready. It's time for the what.
All right, here we go.
Go ahead,
So,
Pat.
Beatles,
Okay.
Duh.
Rolling Stones,
Uh-huh.
The Who,
Mm-hmm.
and Pearl Jam.
Oh, he threw a twist in there. I wasn't expecting the Pearl Jam one.
Yeah, Pearl Jam edges out like Led Zeppelin and a few others.
So here's a Pearl Jam pump for you. Was it even flow?
No, it was irregular.
That was the name of Raven's DDT.
Yeah, I know.
And it was a knockoff version of Even Flow, if you will, was Jericho's second WCW theme when he turned heel.
Yes.
Which is why you'll never hear it on WWE Network. They edit out any of those themes that sound like that
were just too close.
Ones that were the obvious knockoffs. So you'll never hear DDP's theme, which sounded like Smells Like Teen Spirit and everything. So yeah.
Yep.
Those are my 4.
All right. One I knew, the others I was not sure. So
2 of them I figure I kind of knew. The other 2 I didn't.
Yeah.
All
Rolling Stones still going. R.I.P. Charlie Watts, but Mick and Keith will live forever.
they're going to be cryogenically frozen, I think. Brought back to life.
One could argue they already have been.
All right, since
That is true.
AJ threw Darth Pat out there, we're going to throw AJ out there.
So 3-6 Mafia.
Okay.
Jimmy Eat World.
Okay.
Wu-Tang. For sure. That would be my number 1 on there, would be Wu-Tang definitely. And then
hey, ain't nothing to fuck with.
that's right. I'm torn between 2. I'll go Beastie Boys. So
Okay. I wasn't surprised to hear rap groups. I wasn't sure which rap groups you were going to put on there, but I was not surprised to hear rap groups. Out of all of us, you're the one person I figured would be rap groups somewhere in there.
Well, I mean, Jimmy was on there. I've seen Jimmy in concert a bunch of times. I went. It was between Queen and the Beastie Boys. So.
Mm-hmm. All right, I'll let Theo go last on this one. I'll go with mine next. So my number 1 is going to be Live.
Yes.
Which I figured AJ would probably know that one was going to be on there. Another one for me would be Lifehouse, and then Breaking Benjamin. Kind of got a theme going here, some rock music.
All good.
My fourth, though, is really, really tough for me. And I'm going to have to go a little R&B-ish here.
I figured this one was coming.
So Belle Biv DeVoe would probably be my fourth. And I shouldn't say probably be my fourth. They definitely are my fourth. I know I kind of go like rock, 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 and then Belle Biv DeVoe like sweet ass R&B. But I got to throw them on there because they were like, that was when New Edition broke up. Like I got Belle Biv DeVoe, and like I had that album from the start, and I still listen to that shit like to this day, like hardcore, because I want some Poison.
I have my 80s and 90s, playlist on my Spotify. And I have a lot of that shit on there.
I mean, Do Me is like a totally sexually perverted song. It's like, I can't believe it ever got played on the radio.
They made a clean version of Me So Horny and played it on the radio. So
very true.
Yeah, that so sucked. I hated hearing that fucking song on the radio.
That actually reminded me of a song that Monty Python did on one of their albums. They did a song called "I Bet You They Won't Play This Song on the Radio," where they just like bleeped out words like randomly to make it sound as if they were saying bad things.
Yeah,
who knows if they actually were and everything. But yeah, that was the name of the song too. I bet you they won't play this song on the radio.
Yeah, there's certain people songs from Arkan Isle and whatnot that you just can't edit to put clean versions in on a radio.
I know that's why it's going to be really interesting to see what they do at the Super Bowl this year. So
yeah,
true.
You mentioned live, and I like live too. Problem is most times when I think of live, I can't think of live without thinking of when Beavis and Butthead were watching the video for "I Alone." That was like one of the best Beavis and Butthead videos. They're like, who's this guy? It's like, I think that's the drummer. Like,
I remember that too. That was great.
He came into the studio and he was like, wait a minute, you didn't bring your drums? Oh, well, you're just gonna have to jump around like a dipshit then. Something like that. But yeah, I think you can still find it on a YouTube somewhere. So, but that makes me laugh hysterically every time because I really like that song, and then to hear them, talking about the video is pretty.
I like that song funny too, but that was the song that my first wedding where Ned was drunk and he was like trying to slam dance with everybody and he was running all over the place, taking his clothes off.
That's not a slam dance song. Like that's not.
Yeah, we've seen that video, right?
You guys have seen that cult classic that I don't own anymore, but you guys have seen it before. So that was I purposely played that song because I knew Ned went crazy during it, and he sure did that night.
All right, Theo, your 4, please, sir.
My 4. No particular order. First one is Aerosmith. Next one is Nirvana. Next one is TLC.
Ooh.
Because
I knew there was going to be R&B on there somewhere.
Because there's a certain song that got me in with the ladies. And
Scrubs?
My last group.
Yeah, they didn't want no Scrubs from you.
Yeah. You wanted some Red Light Special, though.
Oh.
And then my last group was Boys to Men.
Nice. That one is the one that always won over the ladies. Play a little Boys to Men. Mm-hmm.
Sweet Jesus, it was.
I have a Boys to Men song.
Do you?
Yes, their rendition of Silent Night, because it was from the Now That's What I Call Christmas compilation.
They did. They redid a Beatles song. I can't remember which one though, off the top of my head.
I don't remember.
I have their Funko Pops for the 3 of them. So
my first thought would probably be Yesterday, but it could be other Beatles songs too.
I think it might have been. I kind of just
Well, yeah,
one
because
second.
I say that because Yesterday I think is the most covered song in history, and also because that seems like a song that Boyz II Men could do very well. Like it's something that would fit them. So
Just a sec. Oh, I don't have that one on
Those
here.
are my four.
I didn't copy that
I
one.
was a huge Boyz II Men fan.
Oh, they were awesome. Fuck yeah.
that's an interesting eclectic group, Joe.
I like to listen to I listen to a lot of different genres of music just overall. I was huge with Aerosmith back in the 80s when I was growing up, and going from that to Nirvana, Boyz II Men, and TLC in the early 90s, I was just
I like Aerosmith a lot. They'd probably be in my top 10 if I were to list list them that way. There's a lot of Aerosmith songs that like take me back to certain times and places in my life though. And frequently one of them is for 5 years in the 90s and like 4 years straight, we went to this one little town in North Carolina on vacation every year called Ocean Isle Beach. It's a small like resort town that's like literally right on the beach and everything. It's one of those places that, if global warming is true about water levels rising, may very well be underwater in about 30 years. But try not to think of something like that. But anyway, it's just like I was listening to like the Get a Grip album a lot because it was around that time that one came out. So like if I'm like listening to my iPod and like Crazy or Crying come on, I'm like, I start daydreaming about being back in Ocean Isle Beach. And then I usually have to skip the song because I'm like, yeah, I'm in the middle of my work day where I'm trying to get work done. I don't want to be thinking about hanging out on the beach when I was 12 years old.
Joe, this is specifically for you, Joe. It says Scarlet Boudreaux, but do you guys want to see me make an OnlyFans? Blink twice for yes.
Oh, she's gonna do it, and everyone's gonna tell her everyone's gonna blink twice for it. God forsake, yeah. Guns N' Roses was another one that was very close to being on my Mount Rushmore, but
yeah, you were right with Yesterday. It was Yesterday that they did.
Biggest problem with Guns N' Roses is that their career was so damn short, And
it's funny, I did not like 80s hair bands. Like when 80s hair bands, like for the longest time, like I could not stand 80s hair bands and the music that they put out. When I go back and listen to it now, I have a lot more appreciation for it. And I really actually enjoy it a lot more because it's really good rock music. At that time, I was so like, I didn't like it, not because I didn't like rock music. It's just because I got so sick. It sounded like I was hearing the same band over and over. Because they all had the high-pitched singers, a lot of high-pitched singing, a lot of hard guitar riffs and drums. Like it all
got some David Lee Roth up in there.
Yeah, that's all. That's why, like the analogy that Paul Heyman told on the Rise and Fall of ECW DVD is always like held true to me. He said he felt like the wrestling industry had become like hair band music, where like it was kind of like everybody perceived it was like all the same and everybody was doing the same stuff. Then Nirvana came around and it was like a kick to the balls to the industry where like everything instantly changed and with what was going on.
Grunge music.
Yeah. And then he said he felt ECW did the same thing to the wrestling industry. And I can see that analogy. So, but yeah, it's like, it did kind of change. Like all of a sudden it was Guns N' Roses and Bon Jovi and Poison and Van Halen to an extent and those types of bands. And all of a sudden it was Nirvana and Pearl Jam and Soundgarden and Alice in Chains and Stone Temple Pilots and,
Yep.
3-6 Mafia's first video was Tear the Club Up, and it was in an ECW ring.
Really?
ECW footage. So that's why I started liking them, because of that song, and they had ties to ECW then. So it's really funny that they ended up making Mark Henry's music. Clearly they had wrestling ties. And if you go back and listen to Wu-Tang's music, they make a lot of wrestling references in their songs here and there. There's always wrestling. I mean, everybody remembers that pay-per-view where Method Man was all decked out in his DX shit. So in the crowd. So
yeah.
Wu-Tang makes a lot of wrestling references throughout their many, many songs and CDs. But 3-6 Mafia, their first video was Tear the Club Up, and it was in ECW ring and with ECW footage.
Yeah.
Crazy.
36 Mafia's 36 Mafia's Mark Henry music, I feel, is one of the kind of more underrated wrestling themes from the last little while here, but it's definitely one I would put like rank as like one of the better ones, since we were talking about that topic not that long ago.
Yes. All right. Well, that does bring us to the end of our show, and we appreciate everybody that's listened this long and tuned in this long, wherever you're catching it. YouTube, watch it live on Facebook as we recorded, or if you're catching on any of the audio versions, which is, you got Stitcher, you have Amazon Music, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Pandora. Like, there's I can't even name.
You need to
them
start
all.
writing the list out.
I know.
Yourself.
I need to write I need a fucking list. I know, it's terrible. I should have a list. People are listening to this and they're like, "This guy doesn't even know what the fuck they're on. What the hell's wrong with him?" I do. I just can't remember it all. I really do need to have a list. I'm gonna put it right here, and the next time I'm gonna have a list right in front of me and read it like this.
Do it.
But yes, wherever you're catching us, we do greatly appreciate it. We hope you enjoyed this episode. We will be back again next week with another episode, and then we'll be live, and we will not be recording that and releasing that in audio version, our watch party for Survivor Series. But you can catch us live on Facebook, and please remember to join us on Facebook Live that Sunday for Survivor Series, so you can possibly win a cool ass free win a free shirt, and be able to support us, and which is always kind of cool. So we hope to see you then. We're going to sign off, and we're going to say good evening, good afternoon, and good morning, and we'll catch you on the next episode.